Okay. Not working. There we go. Woo! Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming in. Had to make sure I got everything set up. Had a little minute since the stream. Some of the stuff's not working. I updated the studio the other day. Maybe that. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Hi. Those that missed. After Joe. Woo! What is going on? Ricky Roma. Hold on. Here. Gotta get the prying eyes out, right? Classified intel being dropped. What is going on, Ricky Roma? How are you doing today? Have you been here before? I don't know if you, but it's good to see you. How's everything going in your world? You're doing well? Staying safe and healthy? Things are good in your life? Hi. Welcome to the experience. Where are my men? I feel like I should pull you around a little bit. Give you the true pulse. Because I'm going to time here. Thank you so much, Ricky Roma. Have I forgotten? She likes to come by and make sure everything. Woo! Captain likes to come in, like I said, check around. If you haven't seen the visual novel, it is in the description. Fun. Time as a reservist at Fort A. Tom. I do something. Like your videos about exporting characters as the Blender. Saw the one did. I guess maybe it did. I mean, the deep dive, Daz the Blender versus Video. I have learned tremendous. But some of the things that people were commenting on that video that said, hey, you know, that's not, you know, you could do this better. I'm like, yeah, I figured that out. But I have to tell you that the jazz community, and particularly the Blender community, speaking of amazing friends I've been fortunate, we have. Am I cutting in and out? I had this problem before. Thank you for letting me know. Let me do a reset. Is it any better now? Thank you for letting me know that, because I am not listening. Okay, Quasi Animation Studio, it's great to have you here. Quasi, if you still have time today, going to be joining me on stream. Music is a little loud. Well, if that's a little. But yeah, am I still cutting in and out though? Also, I adjusted. Thank you, Ricky Roman. Wow. Sometimes they like to blast. They. It was a bit. Dancing on the tables. Oh man, and they must not have adjusted the music, knowing I was going to stream today. Okay, still cutting in and out. idea. Called me the other day, and I let me know because it lags. Still doing it? Okay, yeah, I don't know. Try this. Is that any better? I don't know what else to do other than that. But yeah, I don't know what else to do. You know, there's a very aggressive. Let me turn up the gain. Hold on. I think I can fix it. Is that any better? Is it still cutting in and out? Let me know. I think I've got the microphone set for a certain gain, and I did some voice recording the last few days, and so I had to kind of adjust the gain because I have a different setup for like doing voice work, because I'm going to be releasing a short of a new show series that I'm working on, Baby Story. And I was recording my voice for them because I play myself in the show. And there's someone else, another voice actress, she lended her talents. So I had to kind of adjust the microphone. But hopefully, doing better. Woo! Absolutely fantastic. I appreciate it. Ricky Roma has upgraded. Okay? Ricky Roma has given me a promotion. That's quite a promotion from Commander to General, by the way, and I do appreciate it. I am inspired by your confidence in me. Woo! Resurrection! What is going on? Color to Resurrection in here. How are you doing today, my friend? You. And Quasi, anytime you're ready, man. If you want to jump in the stream, I don't know. Whenever you're ready, if you want to. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So I see your message to me. I got that. Yeah, so, yeah, just whenever. This is informal. You guys don't know, a guest here in the chat, Quasi Animation Studio. I've got to meet him recently. He made a comment on a video, jumped in the Discord, got to know him, checked out his content. If you don't know him, you can check. There's a link in the description. Quasi Animation Studio. To the Discord. Awesome. Okay. Woo! Fantastic, my friend. I love to hear. The Quasi Animation Studio. Check out. There's a link in the description. Their channel. And they are going to be joining me here on the stream. We're going to just be talking about stuff. I thought I had some questions. We had a kind of a jam session. The stream yesterday. We were just kind of talking and making sure our setup is good. Hopefully it works today. I think it should. I've got everything on the start. And we're going to just talk about 3D stuff, talk about our projects that I'm working on. Quasi Animation Studio does a lot of 3D work, animated shows. And I highly recommend you go check them out. Video tips, tricks, and reels from Instant Gain, work that he's been doing. But I love his... He is very talented, and he has some very talented that are working with him in the show. So I'm fortunate that he agreed to be the show with me today. Right? Nice background. Rendered into it. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Got Sharon there. You'll see them in the visual novel. There's a link in the description to my first episode of my visual. While we're waiting for Quasi, hey. Let me take you over, Ricky Roma, to the full experience here at Commander Cody Live, the VIP Lounge. Seating is available for all our honored guests there in chat, you know? And I'd love to show you. Kohler, I don't know if I've had the honor of a visual, stunning audio tour of the VIP Lounge. Why don't I take it while we're get set up? Let me take you over there. Get some coffee. Wife came back from Korea, brought me some kakoro talk. Oh, if you're not Korean, you may not know about kakoro talk. It's sort of kind of like chat messaging system that is really popular in Korea. It's almost kind of like combined with the Twitter Korean version. Woo! Contradiction Design is in here today. My God, hey, you arrived just in time because we, my friend, are about to head. Honored guests in the chat, exclusive seating for you, right? You guys don't know, another honored guest here in the chat, Contradiction Design, who I've been reaching out to a lot of 3D. It's only a benefit getting to know. I'll tell you, the Blender community is absolutely amazing. Contradiction Design is another friend. Go check out there. Okay, all right, Quasi, I'm gonna take the friends to the VIP Lounge. I'm gonna come back in to show everybody the audio experience. Then, once we get back in here, I'll be connecting up and we'll do that. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here today. Contradiction Design is another friend is going to be joining us here on the show, hopefully soon. Got to check out their channel as well. I have a link with me. I need to get a bot set up so I can shout you guys out. Contradiction Design. Amazing. I highly recommend you check them out. Subscribe to both Quasi and Quasi. Head on in, and then we're going to connect up with our Quasi animation. Woo! Okay. I got to get set up better. I'm sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on into the VIP Lounge. Our audio equipment is totally a wreck, man. Had a amazing party here the other day. New exclusive contracts getting signed by the Multiverse launch unit, and they just screwed up my equipment. But we're okay. We're getting it fixed, right? Woo! We're getting everything situated. Thank you so much for coming in here. Contradiction Design, Quasi Animation Studios. I appreciate that. As you can see over here, we got our bartender. His name is Richard. We like to call him. He's got free food and drink throughout the multiverse for all our honored guests. That seat is available. We like to kick it up a notch. Hey, ha. And you see the captain right here. She is in the first episode of our multiverse launch unit show here on the channel. And we've got our AI squad sister there over talking, relaxing, chatting with the captain, who you will see in episodes of Are You Chronicles. And we've got some honored guests here. Welcome on in, right? Sit down, my own. You are invited in here. Got some large screens. You guys got to watch myself and Quasi Animation Studios talking in the mess hall and just talking about 3D art, animation, like that. Lucky to have him here with us today. So, what do you say? Let's get started. Woo! All right. So we have we have we have Quasi Animation Studio with us here today. So let's bring him in. I think he's ready. And sorry about that if the audio is a little off. I gotta get everything set up for this. All right. So thank you so much. Hopefully it's fine here. The thing is, I had the microphone unplugged before I came into the I came in here today, and so I was not. So you missed a call from Claude. So let's get it set up. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let me go ahead and do a. I think it should already. Hopefully, I can hear him.
Did you?
Oh, there we are.
I don't know if the video's active or not.
Yeah, it's good. The video's active. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm great. I'm dealing with art.
Oh yeah. Okay. Can you guys hear Quasi right now? They're in the chat. You can hear. I'm gonna bring him in. There he is. At the window too. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay. Now the
I guess from my side,
there
that's
we go.
doing that.
All right. Can you guys hear Ricky Roma? Can you guys hear Quasi? You there?
I'm, I'm here. You're there. We're everywhere.
I think it's getting it. Just awesome.
All right.
Well, thanks for joining me today. Like I said, don't know. I don't know.
Just Quasi. Quasi's fine because that's my name.
Okay, all right, cool. Works out great then. This is
Yeah.
Quasi from Quasi Animation Studio. I've really amazing. Does great tutorial videos. Myself. He's got.
Hello. Do it like Robin Williams from Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh man, that was such a good movie.
Excuse me. Yes, it was.
Thinking about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm sitting here right now doing renders. So
Okay, yeah, I was doing that
yeah,
last night. So
yeah. So I was like, I can do two things at once. Um,
I don't know if you're like
but
me.
yeah, go ahead. Go. No, no, no.
I don't know if you're like me. Like if the room gets a little cold, you're up and heats up the room.
No, I actually, to tell you the truth, where I have my computer set up, uh, you know how it has like the side panels, I took those off. So if it does get warm, I couldn't tell because it's dissipating heat so quickly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um,
That's a smart move, though.
and I always say I don't care how good of a computer you have. put a fan on it. I don't care what kind of cooling system you have, put a fan on it. I have a fan that's dedicated just to the computer,
Okay.
like from out, like an external fan that just sits in front of it that blows straight into it. It's like, why? Why not? Like,
I've seen people
you
take
know,
like window air conditioners it on those like
I
ice cold
can,
air in there.
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah. Yep. So, like I said, I'm doing renders, but no, for me right now it's a little chilly, but that's because I was running my other fan behind me. I got a little warm from drinking, good old coffee here, and then I had to turn it off because it's like it's chilly out. Yeah. So, and the heat's coming on like every other 20 minutes. So
What's the temperature there?
I don't know at the moment. I want to say it's somewhere close to 40. Yeah. 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 That it is.
Well, Ricky Roma, you said quasi making renders in Daz.
No. No. No, I'm not. I use Blender solely. So um I tried to use Daz years ago. Well, I ain't gonna say tried. I did use it, but it was only just to make characters, and the computer I had at the time just it couldn't do it if I prayed for it to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it didn't do well. It took the first time I ever used Daz, I created like this female character. Um and at the time, once, especially early Daz, even now, it's still like this. You get a lot of dance, dance, dance. Everybody wants. I'm like, what's up with the dancing? What's wrong with like picking? Maybe can we eat something? Like, what about eating a hot dog or something? But dance, dance, dance. And the thing that I noticed was it took 5 days to render 30 frames. Yeah, that's how bad the computer was. But even then, at the time, most computers weren't that great in the first place. So a lot of times, even now, when you see demos, they're usually using, industrial grade computers to do that stuff. So when you get on yours, well, I'm not getting the same result. Well, you don't have a $20,000 computer. They do, So yeah, but now I did it before. Now it's just solely Blender. Um, I've had people ask me, was I using Unreal? I'm like, no, there's too many things to do just to get one thing to happen. Even with the animation side, if you're just doing filming, there's still a lot of little bits and pieces you still have to do just to get it right. And then in Blender, I can just snap things to where I need them to go. Versus in Unreal, the movement is wonky. So it's like even if you change the way that it moves, even if you try to set it up where it moves like even in like Maya or 3ds or Cinema 4D or Blender, it's still wonky because now, yes, you can snap, but there's the floor grid is different. So it just throws me off versus when I open a Blender, I'm like, okay, snap here, boom, 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 and it's done. And I know my units and my increments. I already know how far I want each thing to be. I tell people all the time, if you want to model something or if you want to animate something, always have the character in there for scale, but understand if you're depending on where you are in the world, and I'm not necessarily saying the unit of measure, but rather the height of a thing. So I know in the States, the average ceiling is 10 feet. So in Blender, I would just automatically type in 3.048 because in meters, because that's 10 feet. So boom, now I have exact height. Well, how do you get the doors right? Well, most doors are 2.1 meters. That's roughly about 6'5", 6'6". So just automatically knowing that now I don't have to deal with all of these little bitty things and trying to resize scenes and all that stuff. So, and I found with Daz, the issue there was is that they don't have actual animation tools. There are things there to do it, but not at this level.
I
So
like Blender. I my first uh, short film episode.
excuse me. Yeah.
I was hesitant to go to. I should have been over here from the beginning.
Yes. Yes. I ran from Blender only because of render times. I didn't run because of UI anything like that.
You
And
mean Daz
I
Studio?
think the no, 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 no. I'm talking about Blender. But Daz, I just got away from it because it just was, I just couldn't use it because of what I had at the time. When I loaded it on my present computer, I just was trying to just my whole thing was just making characters, but then I realized the level of fidelity isn't as high as everyone thinks it is. And I just have to be honest about that. I'm just like, no, it's just that the model's fidelity is high, but the texturing not so much. So they've been, making adjustments to that. Even with character creator, I saw the same thing. I was like, no. So when I started using in Blender, I started using human generator and I matched them together because I have two different models. I have models from CC3 because I don't have I was doing a trial version of it. So I have models from CC3 and then I have models from Human Generator side by side. And I've asked people which one you think came from Character Creator, and they always point at the Human Generator model.
Nice, yeah. Because the human generator's
And I'm
free,
like,
right?
no, oh no, it's no, it's a paid add-on, but it's like $68 to start, and then they have like a basically what I call the license for studios. So they have the studio license because most time when you see licensing, I think a lot of people don't understand licensing is really more of a game thing versus using it in uh, overall animations. But again, read the policy or whatever. But yeah, $68 to but you don't. I mean, no matter which one you get, it's the same thing. So I always say just get the $68. If you're not about to do some $1 million project, just get the $68 one. Uh, and that's
I've not done anything. I didn't know about this. I started with that.
well, I'll tell you something too, though. Like I've been telling people, get it, but don't stop using DAZ or Character Creator. Like matter of fact, generate your character with Human Generator, and then taking it to DAZ if you want to put, clothes on and this and that. Because right now they're doing a version 4 for it, Human Generator, and they're upgrading certain things. But even the creator, he was like, they're doing stuff for like hair cards and stuff like that because a lot of people are trying to use it for games and trying to convert the particles to curves. It's just so time consuming, and it's not really a Blender thing. It's just calculations. Like I don't care if you're in Maya, it's gonna take forever.
Yeah.
So it's like they're trying to convert to have. You can still use both things, but they're trying to convert to have hair cards for people that are trying to do gaming solely. So because but I say take that character from Human Generator, drop it into Character Creator or drop it into DAZ and put your stuff on it. Like if you already have things like say for instance you wanted to change your models over because you wanted to have that 4K plus fidelity, then you could still put those clothes on those characters. I mean, you can do it in Blender, but I already know one thing I like about Character Creator and DAZ is it's a little bit simpler to get the clothing locked in on the characters and those things because that's what they really were designed for. They weren't really designed for anything else. Like people say, like iClone. iClone is a good place for motion capture, but not for animation. I'm sorry, it's just not.
Right. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I know that people use it, and I
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, like I was saying the other day, is I tell people all the time, stop trying to run away from motion capture. Like, don't run away from it. Use it as your base. If you want to be a what you would call a traditional animator, go do 2D. Go do 2D animation. That's what you're really going after. And a lot of people, when they do 3D, they're trying to do 2D in 3D space. And as I've gone through this journey, I've learned that that's what happens a lot of times. Is like I always said, the bouncing ball tutorial is for people that want to draw. And somebody say, "What?" I'm like, because if you take it, even though they're relative to each other, contraction and expanding is not squashing and stretching. They're not the same thing. We contract and expand. We do not squash and stretch a human and see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Um, so and again, I get those dynamics and having those arcs and those curves. That I'm in no way, fashion, form bashing on that. And I do believe the 12 principal animations are valid, but I think they're more valid for 2D because for 3D, I can do what I want. I mean, think about it. You do a horror game or horror genre, and you have this creature that doesn't exist. What's the dynamics for him? What animation technique do you use for him? There isn't one. So you kind of have to get outside of that mindset and say, okay, well, how can I do these things? And that's really how this journey started for me. It was like, I don't want to do caricature because a lot of people don't know that when you look at a cartoon or even Japanese cartoons, because again, the word anime just means animation. So even if you use looking at stuff coming out of Japan or anywhere else, And you look at these cartoons, I tell you all the time, that's caricature animation and not realistic animation. So, and I like realistic animation because even if you do a really hard gesture, like, no, I'm not going to do it, it's not, the arms don't stretch out 20 feet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah. Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Ricky.
Yeah. Yeah, I use Eevee, but the only time I use cycles because my rig is not my when I say rig, my computer. If people don't talk like that, because I'm as you can clearly see, I'm not young.
Neither am I.
But right, but my computer isn't really. It's old and it's not stout enough to be running cycles. I mean, I could do it because I was doing some stuff last night. I was like, all right, this
You
is
hit a
not
low
bad.
point too, and you're
But
like,
then I
oh.
started. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I had to fix some stuff. Ooh, I got frustrated last night, but that's a different conversation because my auto rig didn't want to work, but it's because I didn't do a clean install. So I was like, oh, never mind. Let me fix it. But yeah, I didn't think about it till last minute. I was like, oh, I didn't do a clean install because with auto rig is one of those one add-ons that you have to completely do a clean delete, like go into the actual roaming file and make sure the folder is gone, and then close Blender, open it back up and reinstall it. Then it'll
Yeah,
work.
I think I remember reading something.
Yeah, and I didn't think about it. I was just excited to get to work.
Want to
um,
jump into it.
and the only reason why I'm doing 3.2, a lot of people say, "Why are you taking it slow to go to the next thing?" And I'm gonna mention it about. I'm gonna bring up Eevee is because each iteration is improving Eevee, and a lot of people can't tell because they're thinking in terms of the old Blender render. And I'm like, no, the old Blender render was basically kind of like a solid render with decent shading. It's not the same like Blender Eternal, I mean to say. So Eevee is like it's literally your is a game engine renderer. Like it even has its own version of path tracing. This is why I know most people don't gonna read the manuals and the documents. I'm like, go read it. It's not at this. It's not a physical
Right, it's not.
renderer, but it's still ray trace. Why? Because there's a shadow there, guy. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't pretend that the shadow was there. There's an actual shadow there. Because the moment you switch from Eevee to cycles, everything gets brighter. And it's because it's doing more bounces. So I always said if you want more bounces in Eevee, just use what's it called? Hold on, give me a second, because I can't
Checking that.
remember off the top of my head.
It's
Yeah, the what is it? Yeah, the iridescence yeah, volume. And when I use that, I only use it in specific spaces. And I always said, don't use it on large environments because that's what the sun is for. Use the sun for that. But use the volume that the iridescence volume, irradiance volume or whatever for the internal and just bump all of the steps up. And then the intensity level, because that's all Cycles is doing is just looking at the light at its highest intensity point. So once you know that, and this is when you start getting people saying, "Hey, was that Unreal?" I'm like, "No, it was Eevee," and then
you just gotten really
volume
good at
goes a long
using it.
way.
You know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also look at like Blender Studio, and they have demos of using it themselves. I was like, "Ooh, that makes sense." Like understanding how to move the lighting as you go through the scene instead of it just being static. And a lot of times people are trying to get that one static light. And again, like I said, the difference between it and Cycles is that Cycles is physical. So if something moves, it automatically adjusts. In Eevee, it can adjust, but it's not lagging out, but it's not going to give you the same intensity of lighting. So that's where the volume and the atmospherics come into play. Once you put the volume in there, that changes the entire scope. And I hate I can't show you guys some stuff, like directly me just showing it because I mean my computer trips out. I'm using my phone if no one can tell to be able to, but I'm just telling the whomever's listening that I can't show you. But at the most of it, even if you go look at anything that I'm doing, like right now, if you look at the Making Anime series right here on the Animation Studio channel, because I have two channels, the Animation Studio channel and the network channel, the Quasi Media Network. When you look at the studio stuff, the Make an Anime series, when I do the building of the set, at least especially the first video is in there, but the second video I change how it looks, the textures look. But you get to see how the volume changes how the entire environment looks. So yeah, I prefer to use Eevee because it's easier on the CPU. I mean, well, on the PC in general, because it's still using the GPU, but it's just easier versus, and then I can crank out stuff faster. Um, Instead of waiting 5 minutes for one frame, I might get, depending on the weight of the scene, meaning the textures, because the textures is really, people say, oh, it's the amount of geometry. I don't have geometry issues. I have texture issues. And most of the time for most PCs, it's about the textures. If you have 22 8K textures, it's going to take forever to render that. You know what I'm saying? So like I did a test with the human generated characters. They have they have, I think now in version 4 they're going up where you can get 8K out of them, but the 4K textures are on the characters, and this is even down to their clothing. And I had 5 of those characters in the scene, and I could not move in the viewport. Yeah, because it was the textures. It wasn't the character's fidelity. The character fidelity is high, but the moment I go to, now understand this is in full render. Now render preview, move around like easily, just spinning and turning. The moment I go into full render, it was just like no. And I was like, oh, okay, it's the textures. So when I went down to one character, it was just fine. I went to 2, it was just fine. 3, it just was like, okay, what you doing? You know, so yeah, but then also I had to remember, like my computer's old, so, and I'm not going to say because I've seen people with 3090s and above with 2 like nice characters in the scene, a pretty well set up scene, and it's just chugging. So again, if you don't have an Andrew Price 20K computer type stuff, then and he doesn't even do animation, so I don't even see why he does all of that. I feel like you don't have all that. You need to be putting out some content I can watch and enjoy, other than tutorials. So that's just me. I'm sorry if anybody offended by that. It's just like, but yeah.
Ricky Roma, you put a thing in here, says there are a lot of great. My advice is I have a Discord. Pretty good at it, so if you recommend, they've improved it. I don't even know how to use the diffeomorphic.
Right.
Yeah. I hope you're still here.
And you're saying going into Blender?
Yeah, going from basically taking the DAZ Studio DAZ 3. I think they've been improving it. One that I seems like bring in pre. I was. There's a difference between DAZ. Maybe help. I use the episode. Oh, my volume is really low compared.
Yeah, I hear you fine, but I know on the video what's happening is it's probably the proximity of the microphone. That's what that's what it seems like to me. I could be wrong though.
Maxed out over there. Yeah. Let me bring up the gain a little. Some. Let me know if that's a little bit better. I'm just bringing up the gain.
Oh yeah, that you came all the way up for me.
Okay,
like
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope I
like that.
I have some audio settings in the for like I have a compressor turned on. I might have to turn that off. But yeah, let me know how I sound now. So I've got some compression and some gating turned on for background noise and stuff. So that may be impacting things too, even if I turn up. Um, but yeah, Ricky Roma, that answers your question. I'm happy to help you out. However, because I use like in my Navy stories that I'm going to be releasing, I bought some clothing from CG Trader and I talked to the artist about using it. I've put in some like rank and the patch of my squadron I was in on the texture maps, and then I also brought in Daz characters and fit them in the clothing. How did I fit them in the clothing? I deleted their geometry underneath. I cheated. Um, but basically,
You know, you could have used a mask,
what's that?
right? You know, you could have used a mask, right? And you can keep that
Yeah,
geometry just in case you want to take the
I
gloves
just was
off.
being lazy.
I no
Yeah,
no
no, no,
comment, no
I get
comment.
mask. I thought about that too, but and I thought actually, what's funny is I thought about that after I deleted. I probably could have used a mask here.
Right.
Could be a little more. Okay, well, let me try a little bit more, man. Now I've maxed out
Three.
the microphone. Other than that, I'm going to have to go into the settings for some of the compression and things like that. So, um, and then I can also, if Quasi's out on my end, I can probably kind of alter the audio a little. Just there.
Why?
Me settings change all the time, but let's see. So yeah, I don't know. I may have to fix this for next time. Usually there's a way to go in. Of course, they're making it difficult. I did a pop out. Where to go to? Oh, is that it? Oh yeah. Okay. Let me know if you can still hear Quasi. Okay. I kind of adjusted the audio volume. So okay. All right. So
Yeah. Just.
yeah. So let me know if he's too low. I'll bring him back up. Yeah. Thanks for helping me out with that too. Contradiction design. I appreciate that. Just move the mic a little closer to your face. Yeah, and I've got the gain. I don't know if that's going to help out tremendously, Ricky, because of my audio settings. But yeah, that's something I could do as well. So maybe that helps a little bit there. So yeah, but so it's gonna. Um, oh yeah, we were talking about your. I mean, you talk about whatever you want to. I love listening to your
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
stuff, but
I'm curious as to what one I messed up here because there's no animation on this. Oof, that's bad. Uh,
I was going to ask about. We were talking the other day about like your workflow. You handle, like setting up your animation. I
yeah, yeah,
guess
yeah,
lip sync and things like that. So,
yeah. I can go
mhm.
into that. I think how do I start? I think the best way to start that would be just knowing exactly what I want to do. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, I know what I want to do." I'm like, "No, you know what the end result you want to do. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about your end result. That's everyone. I think everyone should know that much, at least
Mm.
that far. Um, I'm thinking about it more from the aspect of understanding all the things I need ahead of time. Yes, of course, you may say, "Oh, I know the assets, characters." Again, not talking about that. Saying like understanding all of the tidbits, all the little bitty pieces, the middle pieces, meaning like once you have the character, now what? Once you have the scene, now what? Because a lot of times you say, "Oh, I'll just start animating." I'm like, that doesn't always work like that. So it's like my workflow is let me get the characters done, let me get the scenes and environments done, and then I'll because I've already done the script. Of course, I'll get the script done, do an outline on it or a storyboard, either or. Because outline and storyboard to me are basically the same thing. Because I don't have to go image to image or whatever. Even though I have shown that technique or shown how I've gone about doing it with the Make an Anime series on the studio channel, but uh, I'll like I said, get the script straight, get the outline done. All the other things I've already finished: the character, the sets, and then like all of the if I'm doing any voice stuff, which I like to have voice, I don't really get to. It's hard for me to get into animation that doesn't have any dialogue. Doesn't mean that it's not good. I just like Like right here, they could have said something. Like even if it was just like, "Oh my," but I like having dialogue in my scenes because that's real life.
Mhm.
Not to say being quiet isn't, but that's just me. Okay, so I'll get the dialogue done, and then once I got all that straight, my next step is to make sure that I understand that if I try to animate in the scene, that might break it. So I try to set up two different things. So the one thing will be the main scene, and then the next thing will be uh the like maybe a specific animation blend file. So that blend file is where I'm going to do a lot of the, especially if there's interacting, those two characters will be in the same scene together, and then there's a makeshift set. So that makeshift set will have pieces of the other set, especially the floor. I always have the floor there. So that's part of my workflow is understanding how to get those things done. Because when you start looking at pipelines from these big places, that's basically what it comes down to. You may see like a makeshift heel because the character has to go behind it and come crawling over the top of it. Well, how do you do that in scene when the scene itself might be making your animation chug? Well, let's get away from that. Let's just do it in a scene with a makeshift set that's kind of stripped
Yeah.
down, and then you can do that work. So I go about doing that, and then I don't bring because a lot of people, oh, I'll bring the character in. Don't do that. I have multiple appended characters, so I have the character already in the scene, and then I have the character already. Then I have the character over here in the animation scene. So the animation scene, I'll take that, export that, or append it in Blender. I'll just append it from there to there. So you bring, and then I bring it over into the other one. It's already set. All I have to do is just hit
Mhm.
render because everything's already
Okay.
set up. This way, now the only thing I'm dealing with in the scene is cameras. Only thing I'm dealing with in the scene is probably changing lighting in a specific, like I say, the camera angle changes a certain way. So for me, one of the biggest things is making sure you know exactly what you want to do with each thing. That doesn't mean it's going to change. Like you might have, like in this case, I think I have 12 cameras in this scene that I'm looking at right now, and I might use three, but each one of those are somewhere very specific, and the lighting will change according to wherever
Mhm.
that is. Because, and then making instances of that camera, understanding how to uh, frame it. It's just the same way if you take a picture of yourself. Most people do this or do this, and I'm just like, does that really make sense? Is that really framing you? So it's like if you take a picture and it's like maybe if I'm looking at this and just like, okay, and this is a shot I take. What do you get out of this shot of this frame of me like
Mhm.
this versus if I just do
Yeah.
this? You know what I'm saying? Like it instantly changes. So it's like finding those things and making note of that instead of being in a hurry to, oh, let me hurry up and do this action because I want people to see that, oh, I know how to make amazing,
Yeah.
epic action. Well, what about the
Mhm.
build up? And so I think about those steps, and I always say, get the first part of your workflow,
Yeah.
notepad. The digital is fine, but if you don't have something to write it down with, you don't know what could happen. Your computer can crash on you. Now you lost all your notes. Write it down, draw it. Digital drawing is fine, but paper is
Yeah.
king. Uh, Paper is emperor. um, so it's that's one piece. But then the biggest thing I think that I could probably give anybody is um, just do it. Like real talk. That's one of my biggest workflow things is just do it. Like even if the hand seems a little jerky, like like cool. Because now later on when you go to do that same action again, you go, hold on, let me extend it a little further. Let me open the hand a little bit more. Um, Another part of my workflow is recording myself, like just looking at me just do those actions. I might not necessarily roto that. I might not put that directly on the screen, but I know the general gist
Yeah.
of the action. Um,
Real life references is
Not
awesome.
being afraid of, yeah, yeah, and I, I've never been against reference. I think for me is I don't want to have a reference that ends up being on screen. Like I want a piece of it, but not the whole thing because I'm a real person. I already walk, so I already know what I want. I talk, I already know what I want. I blink, I already know what I want. So it's understanding how to pace that out. Um, but that's a pacing thing versus a workflow thing. So to just stay with the workflow combo. Um, so biggest workflow for me, especially in Blender, is my animation tab being custom to me. So I would say if you're using, I don't even care if you're using iClone or Unreal Engine, make sure that you have that scene is comfortable for you. Where when you go in there and you start moving things around, it's not that you just know where everything is. You know, it's not uncomfortable. You're not forcing yourself to try to work in a space that's just weird to you.
Making the
So
stuff work for
my
you,
space,
making the environment work for you
exactly.
instead of you working around it. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing I like about Blender is I can make 22 tabs of custom
Hmm.
tabs. Like I don't have to sit here and just, oh, I'm just stuck with this. And that's not to say other programs can do that. But the reason why I mentioned it directly specific to Blender is that's what attracted me the most. Not because people say, oh, free. I'm like, the free wasn't necessarily what attracted me. That was just a plus. That was the plus
Yeah.
for me.
It's
The
a big
free was a
plus, but yeah.
plus, but it wasn't the yeah, but it wasn't the attraction point. The attraction point for me was the ease of the ability to customize because I can go in here and customize if I want. I can go in here and make three add-ons work together with a click if I code it right. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like three add-ons just work right now because I just gave it a button. So, and again, it's not to say you can't do it with other programs, but can you? Because it may not have an open API. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like so it's those one of the things that kind of drew me to it. But again, make that workspace fit your workflow. And then now understanding your end result. How do you want it to come out? And not allowing yourself to feel like you're limited by what you have. Like a lot of people say, oh, well, my PC's slow. Well, I have a Lenovo, whatever it is, laptop, and that is 5 years old. And that's where I
Yeah.
started. And it doesn't have a GPU. It's just an Intel HD graphics
Integrated
on,
graphics.
board straight from the board. Yeah, integrated graphics. Yeah, and I was getting stuff out. Even if you look at it today, yes, of course, it's like 3 4 years old, but and you look at it that versus
Mm.
now, and you go, okay, I can see the difference. But it wasn't a technology change; it was me changing, not the technology. Because I've made other things just because I was rendering on the desktop on the laptop. It's like out of Blender
Yeah.
3 and just was like, like, okay, I got to get this done. I'll do it over here. And then I did it and then posted it. And people were like, man, you getting it cranked out. I'm like, well, it's a
Yeah.
workflow thing. Why? Because people think about workflow in reference to watch this here, because here's the next step, guys. It's not just, oh, how do I get the animations straight in the sets and all. It's which things are you going to do today that are going to move the project forward? Because I found myself going, man, I don't want to have to sit here and build asset after asset after asset. But when you think about it, once you're done with that asset, it's
Yeah.
done. And now when you get ready to sit down to do your actual project, there's nothing else to do besides just hit render after that. Because now you're just doing what you need to do and moving forward in problem solving any problems that you have. So yeah, it's not allowing yourself to be stuck in this loop of, do I really feel like it? Because to be honest, just in our minds, as just mankind, as human beings, we self-sabotage. So when people say, oh no, man, I'm procrastinating, no, you're self-sabotaging because you're afraid of the result. It doesn't matter if the result's positive or negative. You don't want either one of them. You're cool being in the middle. And it's sad that we think that way. And then it's sad that we don't think that way. People like, oh no, man, it's just, I got a lot going on. No, you don't. No, you don't. Like, like you're self-sabotaging it. And I noticed it myself. I was like, why haven't I finished this? And I thought about it. I don't want, I love being in it, but I don't really want to give it, I don't want to send it out. Because sometimes people, this is why I have a thing about whips. Oh, this is a work in progress. Man, don't even post that. Why? Because you're not going to finish it. You're not going to finish it. And if you don't finish it, then you really, this is a personal take. I don't use the word opinion because I think opinion is a little bit more
Yeah.
constrained. But a personal take on it is you you haven't done anything until you finished it. You've learned things in the work in progress. You learn things. Do not get me wrong. But just because you learn how to use something in geometry nodes doesn't mean you're going to do that big film. So if you want to get to that point to doing the big film, you have to break out of this. Oh well, I'm working on this. No, just get it done. The moment it's done, then you start to get this feeling. Oh dang, what am I gonna do now? Why do you have that feeling? Because your workflow is, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. I need to get this done, and you work on it
Mhm.
till it's finished. Look at game dev. I use game dev as an example of how 3D should be. Meaning, you deal with this thing until it's finished, and then you move to the next thing. You don't jump around. So if you start jumping around, oh, I'll animate this and animate. You don't have anywhere to put those animations because the
Yeah.
character's not done. What's the sense in the animation? You don't have the character done, or well, I have all the animations done, all the characters done, but you don't have an environment for them to be in. What was the point? Get
Yeah.
those things done, and see if this was just a glorified wet dream.
Yeah.
And I mean it just
Yeah.
like I said. Because a lot of times people will go, oh man, I got this idea, especially with the anime community. They go, oh yeah, man, I got this idea for anime. No, you just all you did was just repackage Dragon Ball and Naruto
hmm
or something like that. That's all you did. You didn't create your own thing. And I'm not saying again, this is not about trying to be some super over the top original person, but when it comes to workflow, your biggest step has to be you getting past those initial steps. And then you can start dealing with your internal workflow, which is how do I do this in Daz or Unreal or Blender or whatever, and then finding those steps. But I always, me personally, I always say, okay, I mean, come on. I mean, like,
Yeah. Post-its. Yeah, you were talking about those
the
yesterday.
note, the post-its, and yeah, and if I just showed around the room, dude, there's one, two, three, four, five, six notepads, and they're like chock full of stuff. Like there's no, it's not just some, and it's no just talking. They're chock full of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like they're
Mm.
chock full of stuff. Um, Sticky pads inside.
Yeah. Markers. Yeah. hmm
It's yeah, like the laptop is always open. Like I know if my neighbors across the street looked in through this window at night, it just looks ghoulish because there's always light flooding through the
Yeah.
light. Yeah, so it's understanding what you want to do and then set out to do it and being okay with taking things out. That's the next part of the workflow I find too, is being okay with that thing not being there because it may just not work. Does it move the story forward? Does it move the animation forward? Does it move the set making process forward? Don't overcomplicate your scene. You ever went into a warehouse, what you're really seeing is a place that's been lived in a sense of people working in it, but it's not like all of that stuff is not stuff you're going to see. Like you walk into an airplane hangar, you don't really see the cobwebs in the corner. So why are you trying to put it
Man.
in the corner
Yeah.
in the set? You don't really see that. Don't do all of that. Just make sure that we can see where they're walking and the things that are going to be in frame. Make those things look as honestly close to reality as possible, or even if, like I said, even if it's anime style or if it's cartoon shaded, just as close to that reality you're trying to get as possible. That's where your workflow needs to be once because when I first started, the characters I was using came from video game. I was using those because that I still don't model characters. I don't model characters.
Yeah.
I'll do clothes, but I don't do and even with clothing, I'm very limited on what I will do. Not because of skill, but patience.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Making clothes, people say, "Oh, use Marvel as a designer." I've seen it, played with it. I still was frustrated. We're like, "What? I still have to do. I still have to do 90% of the work." And people say, "No, you don't." Yes, you do, because you have to know how to get the seam straight and understand how to
Yeah.
design and put. Man, I don't do none of that. You do that. Bring me, send me the clothes.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But again, getting these things done and me looking at this at the beginning and having those models and saying, okay, how do I set this up? How do I do this? And then being afraid to use the tools. Don't be afraid to use the tool in front of you. There's no such thing as cheating in animation. People say, no, it's not. No, it's not. Because if you sat down and you really had the opportunity to see an undoctored, unedited, raw version of behind the scenes Pixar, you're going to go, they did that? Yep. Like it's not what you think. It's not. You have this. You're looking at what you see on the screen and thinking, oh man, yeah, they did that frame to frame. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. That was procedural as hell. They literally went in there and put a noise on that. Like, if you go look at behind the scenes for some of the, I think it was episode 2 or 3, whichever one it was, where just before Anakin turned to the dark side and Yoda was fighting
hmm
Dooku or Doku, whatever his name is. His cane
Yeah.
wobbles.
Yeah.
That's a noise. That
Mhm.
was not handed. That was just noise. And so I tell you, you're trying to do these things that nobody in the big studio was doing.
Yeah.
What's wrong
They
with
use
you?
the tools
Stop.
to speed up progress too. Yeah. No doubt.
Exactly. So use your tools. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid of that. Um, don't be afraid of if you can't render in cycles, if you can't render in Arnold. Don't be afraid of that. Why? Well, the point is were you trying to just make a pretty picture or were you trying to make a great
Yeah.
story? You want it to look great, but don't forget if you go look at any TV show. I don't care what it is, and you go by frame by frame by frame by frame by frame. You're gonna see where the inconsistencies are. The reason why you don't see them when you're looking through it straight is you're
Yeah.
involved in the story. So it's like looking at a movie and the guy has his glasses on, and then it cuts and it comes back and he doesn't have them on. Then it cuts, he come back, he does have them on. It's like what happened there? Well, they shot this 7 times, and the editor was given these video clips that all were shot with the same lines, but he just used what was available. But you didn't think about it until somebody brought it to your notice, or you noticed it because you were kind of in and out of the story. But if you're focused on the story, you're not worried about the fact that that light over there is
Yeah.
way too
No.
bright. That's not to say do that, but don't be afraid that if that happens, you don't go back and render 3 days worth of renders because one light was too bright for half
Yeah.
a
You're
second.
saying
You
don't do
tripping.
what I did in the past because I would do stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do
It's
that.
definitely something.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
no.
Hey, Raptor Cross, how's it
Um,
going? I'm sorry, I wasn't ignoring you. We were just having a conversation about things, but it's good to see you. Hope you're doing. How's everything going with you? I hope you're doing well. Yeah, that's one thing I did when I was I'd go and say, oh, that's not quite right, and I'd get things just perfect, and then I would spend so much time on it and realize, why am I doing this? This hand is behind the
yeah,
character. I mean, I'm not going to see it when I render it to a flat 2D or flat
yeah,
file, So yeah, and that's one of the things I did when I like it. My current, like, I'm working on the Navy story short. It's I'm taking, and it's like, I don't need all this crap in the scene. It's great that, yeah, there's a runway over there. There's an F-14 taking off, but you're not going to see that because the camera's pointed in the opposite direction. I don't need that. So it
yeah.
definitely,
No,
that not having that stuff improves your render time for sure, because it's not having to load a bunch of,
and and, and not just that, not just the render time. It also decreases your time working on that one thing.
yes.
It's like, oh, I want the perfect reflections on the sword. Man, the sword is moving. What's wrong with you? Like,
Oh
the
yeah, it's
sword
like
is being used.
maybe if it's still, but
Like, what is like?
yeah.
Yeah, like you're doing too much now. And I find that I just thought about that. Oh, I tripped out. Okay, but yeah, it's like I find that most people are trying to get this fidelity that the studio doesn't even have. Because if you think about it, most studios are using what they call cards, which is a billboarded 2D plane with an image that's been recorded on it. So you say, "Oh man, that's what is it? Snow simulation." I'm like, they did a snow simulation. You're not wrong, but what you saw on the screen was a card. It was just that you just saw the card, and it was just happens to look like it's coming towards you because the compositor did such a great job. Why wouldn't you? Why are you not doing these techniques? You feel me? Like, and I tell you, that's not what you saw. It's like the explosion. That explosion wasn't even if you're gonna use a practical and they put 3D on top of it to kind of blend them together. The 3D version of it, or the VFX version of it, is on a card. So it's billboarded to the camera. So it's automatically adjusted to the camera. Learning these little techniques, again, using your tools, changes the entire flow. And that's one of the things that I had to start learning because I was really destroying myself with this. Oh well, I'll put all the particles on the screen and I'll just no. I have one. What is it? It's called Ronin Jawa on the network channel. The Master of the Green Destiny, and I got like this really low poly version of the Green Destiny sword, and the Jawa character uses it. But they summon the swords. They throw their hands on, they summon the sword, and the sword comes down. Boom. And I use particles for that.
Okay.
But the thing is it's billboarded. There's no
Oh,
particles in that
you
scene.
you made a plane and then put the video on that plane. Yeah, that's power right there. That's so much less processor intensive.
So this way, exactly, and those things render like this, and it was just like boom, and people say, "Oh, it's because it was an Eevee." It was like, no, it wasn't because of Eevee. It was that there was hardly anything there
That's
for
smart.
Eevee to render. Even in cycles, that it was rendering fast. I was rendering in I think 15 seconds in cycles on that scene alone because everything was so light because I was just letting the textures do the work. And this not and this very when I say low poly, I'm saying not only are the models pretty much mid poly, but the environment they went in was super low poly. And it was just really just shapes with some textures on top, and they weren't even great textures because I was focused on the story, not being afraid of being okay with that. Because even if someone comes in and says, "Oh, this looks like trash," well, thank you, man. I take the trash out all the time. That's why it's on YouTube. Like I know how to deal with trolls. Like that's easy. Like okay, cool. I had someone tell me that my Rise of the Derulian series was like a Dollar Tree version of Dragon Ball. I said, well, I like Dollar Tree. Thank you.
Got some good
like
stuff at Dollar Tree, man.
I got
What
the
are you
story
talking
now.
about?
Exactly. I was in there last night, as a matter of fact. So it's like don't be afraid of that. If you're nervous about, oh well, I wanted to be perfect. You do know that's not a thing, right? Like people say, oh, I want to be. I'm a perfectionist. No, you're not. You're just scared. And I tell people this all the time. And again, and I'm not saying this is any kind of uh thing. Like it doesn't have any value to me. But my degree was psychology. That was my major. And I tell people all the time, a lot of the stuff that people are saying is stuff that people in the general sense are saying. But psychologists are only just riding it because that's how they make money. But in psychology, those things are not a thing. So when people say, oh, well, I got imposter syndrome, I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, are you not doing the thing? Like, do you understand that what's the name? J.K. Rowling's wrote books and they got denied for years and then suddenly they went boom? Do you understand that the Hobbit book is literally all of the movies? The one book is all of the movies? You know what I'm saying? But like what? I was like, what? And it was only 84 pages, but they made 5 movies out of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, so like explain to me why you scared to do it. They weren't, you know. So I'm just at this place where uh I don't care if you don't like it. I didn't make it for that. I made it for those that
Yeah,
are looking
yeah,
for it. So, if you're not interested in Navy stories, then
right.
you're not gonna watch it, right? But if you are,
Sure.
you're gonna watch it. Like if you're not interested in Dollar Tree Dragon Ball, don't
Exactly.
watch it. I am. Say if you're not interested in, like the last thing I just dropped, Love Portrait. That's just only part 1. That's 2 chapters to that.
Your stuff looks great
And
too. I mean,
right now I'm working on movie stuff. Thank you, man. And the thing is a lot of people don't know I've changed the way I render. Like those renders are way they'll trip you out if I told you how I did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a secret or anything, but a lot of people go, "Oh, you rendered an Eevee. Eevee was on. You're correct." like what? Like, because I learned something from people that use Maya. I tell people all the time, look at all tutorials on animation. Don't just go, "Oh, I want to look at Blender animation." I'm like, you're looking at people animating in Blender. That's not a Blender animation. It's not a thing. What you're looking at is people animate in Blender. But if you look at somebody animate in Maya, you're going to see the same skills and technique of people at that same level. It doesn't make a difference. The software is just happen to be what the software is. But I learned a trick from a guy in Maya. He was like, the reason why he uses Blender to render is because he can do a viewport render at the same level of fidelity.
Oh, okay.
Even if you just
can't do that in
F12. And I was like, what?
I guess you can't do that in Maya?
No, you can't. No, not you can, but not at the same level. Like it'll still take just as long as if you rendered it in Arnold. So he was like, no. He was like, so when he wants to do like he's trying to crank out projects, he was like, I'll transfer everything over to Blender, and I just hit viewport render. And it was like not a play blast, because a play blast we know it's going to be clay. Yes, it can be. You can call it a play blast. He said, but he has all his settings at the same setting he would do if he hit F12. Or if he hit Control F12, if you want to do an animation render. And he hit this and he gets the same fidelity and he wasn't lying. So I tried it. And then I posted the video and went, let's see. And man, that looks good. I'm like, dude, that was just straight from camera. Straight from camera. And I was like, why is Blender not rendering like this? And she said, oh, because it does this. I'm like, the calculations are cool. Do not get me wrong. But how can you go into something like Unity or Unreal or even Godot and start playing a game and you go, man, this looks great. Why is that level of programming not in this program or any other program for them? And not just Blender, but Maya, 3ds Max, Cinema 4. And people give these, not call them excuses. They'd be like, well, because I'm like, that doesn't make sense when you can do it in Unreal and it's doing it and it has the ability to ray trace just like if you were using cycles. So explain to me, why is this not in the 3D program so we
Yeah.
can just get this stuff out? So I thought about it. I was like, it is, and it's called a viewport render. So I started doing that just to play around with it. Not all of them. Some of them, depending on what's in it, especially when you're dealing with shiny bits, the viewport doesn't always give you the right reflections back. So you do need to go through the calculation process of hitting, Control F12. But again, there's workarounds. It's like, well, that's if those 3 frames are like that. This is what I do. I started doing image sequences because at first I was just doing the FFmpeg, just doing a straight video, and I was like, dang, I got to re-render this because I did a whole video versus doing an image sequence. But then when I started doing image sequences, I realized why people did it, and it was like, well, I only need these 2 frames, so let me go render those 2 images. So even if something's off, I can just go back and just hit render just for that. Just hit F12 and then just save it because it's only replacing frame 113, And now when I go back, it's already set in my video file when I go to look at it in my editing software, which I'm using Blender now to do my video edits, not necessarily all the other stuff. Because like I said, sound design and all that I do elsewhere, but then I bring it into Blender in the video editor and hit play and go, this looks good, and then render and be done because it doesn't color band as much as other software. And even if you're using, people say, oh, I'll render it at 4K. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It still has color banding in it. Black, extreme brights and extreme darks always color band. So, and they always color band only because of compression, right? So if you got a good compression rate and you do it, I always say if you're going to render at 4K, you're only doing that so that you can get 1080 out of it on YouTube because that's all you're going to get. People say, oh, it does it at 4K. I'm like, but you're not seeing that, and you fail to understand. I'm telling you, on YouTube, it's compressing it. So even if you do it at 4K, it's still only going to come out as 1080. Good, you did good. Now we still can see it in good, clear rendering, but don't overthink the process. Again, people worried about that workflow stuff. Stop worrying about that. Why? Are we not supposed to be here for the story? Yes, you wanted to look good, but real talk, how many movies are out right now that look great? They straight crap.
I think we've seen a number of more recent movies that have come out in the theater that, oh yeah, Disney or whoever, did this great thing, and man, that story really sucks on that. It's like I'd rather watch
Yes.
a movie with maybe CGI. You make fun of the Sci-Fi Channel movies that came. I don't know if they still do it or not, but they used to have these movies, and they had. I mean, you could tell the special effects and the graphics were like just crap, but they were like these fun, creative movies, and I had fun with those and enjoyed them for what they were because they were just a blast to watch. I didn't have those expectations, and then you get this great CGI and terrible. But that's good. Sorry, you have a Bible study. Thank you so much for coming in. Good to see you. And Ricky Roma, just to answer your question, what GPUs? I use a NVIDIA 2070 Super. And which one do you have?
I told you my computer's old. So let me say this now, Roma. I'm stuck on a GeForce GTX 760. Yeah. And that's why I tell people you can do it. Don't act like you can't. Just because you have a 3090, that just means you're just going to add.
You can kill a 3090 with Blender.
You had a 3090. You're just gonna all you're gonna do is say, "Oh, I have more power," and then you're gonna add more stuff, and then you're gonna go, "Man, it's still chugging. I need more RAM," and then you're gonna add more stuff.
I need to render this at 10,000 samples and cycles at 4K, and
and you only need 128. You know what I'm saying? Like, but a GeForce GTX 760, But then, I mean, the computer I'm overclocked at 4.3 gigs
what
on
processor do you have? i7. Okay. i7. What? Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I had to look at it again. I don't remember, but it's i7 and 20 gigs of RAM. Computer moves smooth. Don't get me wrong. The only reason why I get the chuggies is because of course, I have the 4 gig. I only have 4 gigs on the VRAM. So.
Okay. Yeah.
But I did something slick. I got slick. I went to Walmart and I dropped I just wanted to see. They had this computer. It was supposed to be an MSI with like a 3080 in it, and it was like a laptop. And I went and put the USB drive in it and just loaded up a standalone Blender on it.
Loading Blender on this. So what are you doing over there? Yeah.
And nobody said anything. The guy was actually watching me. He was just like, "Dude, you use Blender?" Yeah. And I was opening just to see. let me make this clear. If your scene's not optimized, it don't make a difference what you have. It doesn't. It's gonna still
Yep.
chop like crap. So, and I got on this laptop and I was like, this is cool, but I literally loaded up an old file that I knew was over the top, and it was chugging. It was chugging. It was having hell trying to move around in the scene. And the only reason why I was having hell is because the
Yeah.
scene wasn't optimized. But then I opened up another scene that was optimized, and it moved just as smooth
Yeah.
as I did on my desktop. So it's if you don't know what you're doing in regards to optimizing, it doesn't make a difference what you
Yeah.
use. It does not, because again, like I said, I use a laptop with. I mean, it's 2.4 gigahertz processor, um, and integrated graphics card, and at least four of the last 20 videos I uploaded on my network channel, because everything that's uploaded on the studio channel, that's straight from my desktop, and it's just me recording, right? But me actually doing stuff that's been rendered out, and at least four of the last 20 videos uploaded on the studio, I mean, on the network channel, came from that laptop. And I was using just Blender 3.0. And the render times were not that high. And it wasn't because I was using Eevee, it wasn't that high because the
Yeah.
scene was optimized. Because even if I was using cycles, because I always tested, I'll even cut cycles on to see how fast it was. And last night, I made this warehouse for the title sequence for my film,
What's
my
the name of the
upcoming
film?
film, and
Kalita Unchained.
Kalita Unchained. It's yeah, and it uh it, it took longer to render in Eevee than it did in Cycle.
Damn.
When I hit F12, I was just sitting there looking at the checker screen for like a minute in Eevee, and then when I went to Cycles, it was like click, and then I think I had it set to like I just did like 100 samples. I just wanted to see, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. It, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, I was like, okay, this looks good, and so it just comes down to the level of the optimization of the scene. Um, in Blender, I always say the issue I have with the asset library is you have to create asset libraries. Like you have to
In
actually
the other
create
Blender file, yeah, and then
assets. Yeah, and I'm just like, why can't I just append the file and it automatically use that appended file as an asset library? Like just be able to link that Blender file without everything having to be marked as an asset. And I feel like if they change that, the
yeah,
game is monster now, because now you could just literally just go to a blend file and just start appending stuff to from that thing directly versus having to open it and append. Or create an asset, then have that blend file as an asset file, even if it's inside of it. Like yesterday, I was doing poses for the film, doing a pose library for it, and I found that like the way you have to go about it is a little convoluted. But then I looked at it, people doing it in Maya. It's the same. It was the same convoluted thing. Like I'm a little tired of the debate on. Oh, this has been none. All of them are crap in that regard. All of them are crap. Like because the developers are just doing what they're told. They're not really doing things from a. Most people that do development are not doing it from the standpoint as a user. They're doing it as a developer and just solving a problem. But when I looked at the asset library for the pose libraries, the only thing I had an issue with is I had to go in and do all these little bitty bits and pieces myself that kind of should have been with once I hit the button, it's already done. And again, I get that that's a programming issue, so I'm not complaining about it in that regard. But my complaint is now it's taken away from the workflow because I'm having to do these little tedious things that should have been part of the clicking. Just as soon as I click create asset, it should have already been set. Now I had to go in and do all of these things that like separating them into folders and all that I just shouldn't have to do. Where if I say I should be able to create an individual pose library for each thing. If I just want facial animations, you create a pose for that, not a blend file, just a
hmm
folder. You know what I'm
yeah, and
saying?
I hope that they
Um,
do some extra work for the asset browser. I don't know if they've done any more for it, but yeah, I agree with you. I think that the asset
yeah,
browser, the way it works, it's a neat concept and idea, one central location for everything, materials, poses, all that stuff. But I think
yeah,
like the way that they use it, uh, definitely. That.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the it says UV employee Bible study. It says a long time ago there was a movie. I think it was Attack of the Killer Spider. I believe this. There was a town that was trying to destroy a gigantic spider in the. They used a real spider to this day. That was the best graphics ever. You know, I've said that like about Battlestar Galactica. You know, I'm a huge fan of the 1970s,
Mm.
and when I go back and I watch the 1970s versions and the Cylons, and I compare it, in 2005 they had cutting edge sci-fi, and it looked the space scenes still look amazing in the newer Battlestar Galactica from like 2005, the 2000s, the late 2000s. They still look really good, but the space scenes look incredible still. But you look at the Cylons, and it's like you can tell it's CGI. And you go and look at the old 70s version, you're like, you know what? The old 70s version actually looks better than the 2005's version because they use practical effects, you know? Like the laser blasts still look good and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like there's something to be said about practical effects sometimes over, CGI. You can overdo the CGI sometimes, and it just kind of takes away from the the realism of it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, totally.
I mean, like, there's always going to be that jank, even if you're using practical. Like you can tell when it's a miniature being blown up. I don't care how good the
Godzilla.
fidelity is. I've seen
Yeah.
people talk about it, like Corridor Crew, and they were like, "Oh man, I didn't realize that was a miniature." I was like, "I did. Why? Because buildings don't. I've blown
Mhm.
buildings up. They don't blow up like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, throw a grenade into a space, and it may not even crumble at all. Um, if you bury it under the dirt, it just does like a little, yeah, and like so all this extreme, I'm like, that's not real. So I already know that that's fake, like instantly. But at the same time, there's times where you get those things where you go, okay, that practical miniature gave me that feel that it needed for the film. So yeah, seeing like that real spider stitched in, like the original King Kong, where they were using miniatures that were claymated,
Mhm.
like dolls to switch scenes when the guy goes to get her as Kong is like hiding in the background, or I mean going into his little space or whatever, and seeing those things I was just like, dude, this is the way they did it. I was like, that transition between them showing her as a plate and him holding her, and he's claymated or whatever. The cool transition is now, if you see it, you can just see this feathered outline versus then you clearly know she's a plate, but she looks more like she's in his hand in the 19, whatever, I think
Somewhere around
20
there.
30 20s or
Yeah.
30s or whatever. Yeah, that version versus whatever they did in like 2000 or 90, whatever it was, and seeing that and going, wow, we can totally see that is she ain't even moving. It does destroy the illusion, and the point is it's supposed to be an illusion. So I agree. I like certain things being practical. Other things they definitely need to do VFX
Yeah.
on that they didn't, and I was like, "Ooh, you should have just used like a
Yeah.
VFX plane for that because that
Yeah.
toy plane looked
Right.
horrible."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
it just
Um,
depends.
contradiction design was saying the best part of learning with low respect machines is that you learn how much detail and resolution you really need to max out on. Yeah, exactly. Learning to optimize is more valuable. And yes, like I'm fortunate to have a pretty decent PC. It's, there's better stuff out there now, but like one of the things, like if you watch the Backrooms video on my channel, it's smooth shading. He's incredible also because he doesn't even have a PC with any graphics card. It's integrated graphics, and he's using an i5 processor, and he was able to create these Backrooms video environments that were like, damn, dude, I mean, you just, you're working with hardly anything and you're producing this content. So if anyone knows how to optimize, he does. I know that Quasi does too. I'm fortunate to have a pretty good PC, so I can sometimes, maybe I get into some bad practices and habits that I could be better off not doing. I guess what I need to do is start up my old computer with the i7 and the 1050 Ti and use that, and then once I get to my new PC, I'll be like, oh man, this is great. So yeah.
A friend of mine, I told you this yesterday, my friend Josh, he was like, dude, if you had at least one of
Mhm.
those rigs, like something with like a 3080, he said, 3050, he was like, the stuff you would do. I was like, dude, I
Yeah.
don't even want to talk about it. I was like, I don't even want to talk about it because I was looking at the difference between 3.1 and 3.2.
He's talking about Blender, by
And
the way. So
3.2 is a Blender. So they were originally the EV Next was supposed to be in 3.2, and they pushed it back because they were focusing on geometry nodes for some odd reason. And I'm sorry, it's just odd to me to focus that much on it when, to be honest, it's a good thing. But if we're not, again, I'm one of those people. If we're not using it to do productions, it's just in the way. Um, that's why if you look at the top of my Blender tabs, it's very limited tabs. What do I have a scripting tab up there for? What are we doing
I
with
agree. Yeah.
that? Like, it's not a game engine. Why is this there? Like, just for me, why is it there? Again, for somebody
Yeah.
else, it may be viable, but I don't need it. So again, that's why I like the flexibility. But anyway, so but the EV Next, so I realized somewhere in there it's there, because when I started looking at the level of the occlusion and the shadows in Eevee versus Cycles, actual full render, I'm talking like the difference was just so small. I was like, dude, and the reason why that is exciting to me is because Cycles is great, but the problem with Cycles is it's slow. Arnold is slow. Octane is slow. RenderMan is slow. Why? Because I'm having to denoise something. If you didn't have to denoise it, I would trip using it. But the denoising part is really what you're looking at. And I think that's where people kind of forget about. It's the denoising part that's really your issue. Because if you don't have enough samples, it's going to look like you painted it. If you have too many samples, it's just going to take too long to do something as simple as rendering a strand of grass. So it's like, again, and I agree with the comment is optimizing, and a lot of people get away from it because they go, "Oh, I have the machine that can handle it." No, you don't. Let me tell you real quick why you don't. Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Devastator. Devastator, the file for just the character model, no rig, no animations, was 32 gigabytes. When they went to render, I think they got 5 to 10 seconds in the rendering, the computer caught fire. Now, even at the time of this film, their computer was better than anybody's computer that's in this stream right now and anybody that's looking at the stream right now. Their computers were better than anything you've ever seen at that time. And it caught fire. So miss me with, oh, I got the rig. No, you don't. Optimize your scene. They optimized their scene the best they could and it caught fire. So, it's like understanding what you have and using your tools, and get away from, I'm sorry, I just have to say it again. Get away from the idea of, I want it to look great. To whom? There's things I saw. I haven't even looked at, like this, when they redid the Doom movie. I didn't even look at it. And it was, why you didn't look at it? Well, I mean, enough of y'all going to talk about it. I'm going to get to see clips. So I got to see clips of it and I went, it's not bad. This is not bad. But my thing is the story good? I wouldn't care. I wouldn't give 3 lovely doodlies if they had, graphics of the year. Okay, all right. Is the story good?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because if the story is bad, or if the storytelling pacing is too slow, or if it just seems a little off, that's where we need to focus at. Because again, the point of it being pretty is so that you're not jilted away from the story. But if it's pretty and you go, ooh, this is horrible. Oh my God, why? Like, to me, the best part of Thor: Love and Thunder was the goats.
I didn't even see that movie.
The goats.
So yeah.
Man, if you go watch it, the goats, the goats, and why is they like, they just were funny, man. Like, they made the movie to me. The rest of it was like, it wasn't bad, but it was just like, okay, but it looked great.
Were they CGI goats or were they like real goats? Okay.
They were CGI. They were CGI goats. They were too big to be real goats. But either way it goes, they were still great. The goats just were good. They were just a solid character.
Whoever Disney hired to do those, they need to rehire them. But
yeah, but even like I said, even the look, that's fine. But if the story is kind of like, man, it's like, really, like y'all took all this time to render this. This is why I'm looking at it, like, for it to just be, And again, people say, well, that's your opinion on it. I'm like, no, I didn't say it was a bad movie. It's watchable. But are we focused on what it looks like, or are we focused on what story is telling and how it's telling the story really? Because it's not because you can. I've seen movies where the story was like, "What in the hell?" But they told it so well. I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay," you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just I was like, "Okay, well, I mean, I don't get it, but it was good to see it. Like, it was just fun to watch because the way it was told." Then some movies you go, "Wow, y'all paced this horribly." Um, like it would have been better if you just slowed it down or sped it up or whatever. So it's one of those things where I feel like when it comes to storytelling, that's where the focus needs to be. I always said that like the Lord of the Ring movies, like only two of those movies were good movies. The rest of them were just
Yeah.
there to fill in the space. So it's like it just I mean like when like you sat down and you really was just like, oh my God, like I got to watch the next one, and you watch the next one, you go, oh damn,
Mm.
they didn't even try. It's like because they know you were gonna show up. I always tell people just because you go to the movies, oh, they made 50 million or 500 million this weekend. That's because everybody went. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
that didn't make the movie good. Now watch next week when they trash it, and they're not trashing it. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of people out there trolling, but most people are genuinely giving you a good synopsis. They're going, okay, yeah, like people. My daughter, she was like, "Dad, you want to watch Wakanda Forever?" Nope, I'm never gonna watch it. They're like, "Why?" Has nothing to do with what you think. It has everything to do with you're just riding a train that ended in the first movie. That ended in the first movie. Anything after that is kind of like that's. I'm looking at it from a standpoint, not from a movie standpoint, not from a business, not from a VFX or animation standpoint. I'm looking at it from a standpoint of storytelling. It ended. This is where I took it that way. Why? Because the conflict just doesn't match to me. Like now it just didn't match to me. So I was like, okay, I'm good. Again, watch the movie, enjoy it, take time. Like it may be a great movie, but I don't know. And so for me, it was like the storytelling in the first one was kind of lackluster to a point. But I was there because I wanted to see if they were going to go there, and they didn't. And the reason why I said they didn't is because again, this idea of trying to make it for all ages, and no, some movies supposed to be for me. Some some people. There's a game I don't know if it's dropped yet, but the same people that made Dead Space, they got this one called the Callisto Project. I was looking at behind the scenes stuff from there yesterday. When I tell you, they said it's horror. Forget the horror part. I was like, my God! But the dude said something. He was like, you have to go there. And when I heard it, I went, that's it. You have to go there. One of my shorts, Brother's Keeper. It starts out. It's quiet. There's no music at all. Like you just hear this humming sound because they're in this room and you just hear like the unit running and it's like, and then the guy's like, all right, well, you gonna tell me or what? And then he gets up and he's like, well, you're not my brother. I'm like, and you go there and don't be afraid to go there when you're making your stories. Don't be afraid to go there when you are, giving people what you have is your creative thing. Do not overly focus on, oh man, that did have the right reflections. No one saw that shit. No one saw
Mm.
that. Only a handful of people saw that, and that's what they came there for. They came there for that. They came there to see if your stuff looked good. Other people, the other 99%
Yeah.
came to see if this was a good
It's
story.
like example of that to me is like Avatar. I don't hate the first movie, but
Yeah.
it was just okay. I had amazing, stunning visual effects, and I know there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that are fans of it, and
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that, but to me, it was like, I can't think of anybody's names. The best person for me was the bad guy. I liked him the best, Colonel Miles Quaritch. He was my favorite, but the
Yeah.
it's visually stunning, but the story was just a kind of okay. It's like,
Yeah, and it
yeah,
was. It was just okay. It was the typical.
no, go
I'm
ahead.
not digressing here when I say this. The entire world is a colony. So I hate when people say, "Oh, he's a
Yeah.
colonizer." The whole world is a colony. So you sound stupid.
Yeah.
Period. I don't care who you are. You sound stupid. Okay. So all you did was go to another planet and try to do the same thing you do here, there.
Yeah.
That was the story. That was the whole story. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you lost me. But I enjoy the interaction between the main character in Zoe Saldana's character,
Yeah.
the female character. I enjoyed that interaction. I even enjoyed Sigourney Weaver being excited
Yeah.
about learning the culture. Like again, things you see here, there. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. So And I get it. Most people make the excuse because it's an excuse, as far as I'm concerned. Well, you just do things that you know. Well, we know that, but what if you're not from there? So would it really go that way? Why? Why? I think it would have been a better movie if they would have been fighting for their lives to try to get off the planet because the
Yeah.
inhabitants were killing them. I think it would have been way more fire. Why? Because I don't know you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Who are you? Why are you here? Like you trying to leave? Like and then get away from this dynamic. No, there's nobody on their side. There is no person that defected from the Navi that's saying, "Oh, well, I'll help you." Nope,
Yeah.
everybody trying to eat you. I feel like that's why I gravitated a little bit more towards the Colonel guy too, because it was like he said everything's out there trying to eat your face. Like I feel like that should have been the story, you know, and it's like we shouldn't have never came to this rock. That should have been the story. So and I feel like the second one, I think that's kind of what's happening. But the other way around, where it's like we're just defending our home versus this should have been should have been the first story. But again, visually, yes. Why? Because you look at it and you go, dang, like I don't know what a blue person really would look like in the light, but they look good. You know what I'm saying? So I agree completely, 100%. And that's one of the things that I'm going for with everything that I do. I'm not opening up a file and saying I need this level of fidelity. Like how do I put this? I do not use the term photorealistic because it doesn't make sense to me. Okay. I don't use the word stylized because it doesn't make sense to me. You just don't know how to draw. Like, oh, it's stylized. Okay, you don't know how to make a human face based on real human anatomy. You don't even have to say, hey man, look at my character. Cool. I like him. He looks cool. I like the way you blocked his face out. He looks real strong in the face. So it seems like the terminology is just kind of, it's almost to me almost an insult. Like, no, this is just my art. This is the way that I chose to see. And again, don't get me wrong. I get why you call it stylized. I get why you say photorealistic. But if you look at the paper in front of you and then you try to do that on screen, they're never going to be the same. I was again going back to the Callisto protocols. They were showing this company that was doing their lighting, and of course their lighting director, and they were showing like this shirt, and they were showing this character. You can probably look it up, and it probably props up or whatever. But anyway, you could see the difference in the lighting on one shirt versus the other, and they were close. They were so close. But I always said the rendered one could have been just like the real one if they did just crank the light up. People are scared to crank the light up. You look at my hand. If you see my head in certain areas, here it looks a little lighter, darker. But the moment it started to blow out. That's what you want. If you want realism, you want real, blow it out. Just crank the light up. You know what I'm saying? And I always tell people, you want real, crank the light up. Crank the light up. Crank it up. Stop trying to get this gloomy. Crank the light up. Even if it's dark, crank the light up. That flashlight in your face is blowing. You can't even see the person behind the light. Crank the light up. But no, what you did in your scene was let's turn the light down so we can see the person. We can't see them. They're in a dark ass alley. I'm not supposed to be able to see behind the dumpster. You want photo real? Go take a picture outside at night and see what you see. That's what your blender scene need to look like. That's what your dad scene need to look like.
Yeah.
Well, they won't be able to see it. That's the point, right? So you're not doing photo real. You're doing close to. You're doing realism, but you're not doing photo real. So that's why. Exactly. That's why I never use the term because it's not what we're doing. You're giving me a rendition of it. You're not giving me an actual thing. So people say, well, that's what it means. Again, more excuses. Don't try to defend it. Just stay in the realism, stay in the truth, is that we're getting close to it, but we're not doing it. Because if you really try to do if you really want water to look like water, you're missing a lot of components. If you want paper to look like paper, you're missing a lot of components. And it's going to take a lot of computing power for one sheet. Just one sheet. And you got a book on the table.
Yeah.
So again, I just said they had a model that was 36 gigabytes and it burnt the computer. So just the model, they wouldn't just the model. So yeah, it's like, dude, like you have to kind of get into that mind state to say, okay, hold on, wait a minute. Let's get close as possible. Now we got it. Now let's blow it out. So when I see people judging stuff like in film contests, well, you could have did this with the light. I always make a comment. Why? Why should they do that with the light? Because that's what the real light looks like. And that's what made, when I was looking again, I'm bringing them up again. I'm not promoting them or nothing, but looking at the guys making the Callisto project, that's what they wanted. They were saying, we were looking at these horror films and looking at how they did the lighting, and this was real lighting on real people. And they mimicked that. And I was like, that's what made the game to me look appealing. I mean, I want to play it, but I would definitely watch somebody play it. You know why? Because I'm not. I'm sorry. I just ain't got. I'm not
Yeah.
making time to go buy games to play them. But to see that and go, that's what I'm going after. If you're in a real warehouse and it's bright outside, and there's no windows in that warehouse, there's no light in that warehouse except for what's coming through the front door. So why do you have all this light in here, or from whatever's inside? So if there's lights way, 20 feet up, how bright do those lights need to be to touch the ground? That's what you need to focus on. Now go look at that. Now put that in Blender or put that in Daz or whatever you're using. Put that in there. And this is where I go with the references. Again, using my last short, Love Portrait. The issue for me was glass. I don't care if you're using cycles or using Eevee. Glass, the way the camera looks through the glass is the issue, not in the scene itself. And the scene itself is fine, but so it's like that the way it looks in the camera almost off. So I had to find little tweaks. And this is in any studio. They have to find tweaks for everything they do. Water, smoke, fire. They have to find a tweak every time. They don't always use the same formula every time. Why are you trying to use the same formula every time? You may have to adjust something for this particular um, short film or this small video series you're doing or whatever it is. Even if it's just an illustration render, you may have to find those things. And I find a lot of people are afraid to do that. They want to use the same formula every time. It doesn't work. Like I can't do what I would do for this make an anime series with my movie. It's not gonna work. And trust me, I tried. I was like, why does it look like? Oh, because I'm trying to do stuff that I was using for the toon shading with textures that look more real. Yeah, not gonna work, guy.
Yeah. Says and Ricky Roma, you're welcome if you're still here. I don't know if you're still here, but yeah, you're welcome. Any questions or anything like that, I'm happy to help do on. Yeah, exactly. Learning to optimize is more valuable than yes, I definitely agree on. Although I do love PC hardware, I do too. I'm addicted to it, but it's like the latest and greatest things and overclocking and all that stuff. But it's too dangerous to get spoiled by powerful machines and skip some learning. So that's absolutely true. Raptor Cross, I'll get with you after the stream. Thank you so much we'll connect and stuff. So yeah, and sorry about what's going on. It's like adjustments for Clip Studio Pro, Photoshop, or graphics tablet or ZBrush, and you see this amazing art that you did, and you were just sitting there looking at, oh yeah, exactly. You're looking at the spheres, like, how do I make that happen? Is that what you mean, UAB? So saying, okay, maybe I need to take some courses. Yeah, just because courses because I just,
I can chime in on that if that's no problem.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Again, if you're still there, I'll tell you one of the issues. This is something I found. I started reverse engineering games.
I'm gonna use the restroom. Go ahead. I'm gonna use the restroom, but go ahead and do your.
All right. And I would look at this game and say, is that really a rock or is that a picture? I would say, is that really grass or is that something that's just following the camera? And so when I started looking at behind the scenes stuff on games, I was like, it was just a plane that was just moving. It had an animation on it, or that tree might have been an actual mesh object, but they just took an image of it and just put it in the background because you were never going to go past it. So a lot of times when people make these things, they're just it's layers. So it's like, well, what if I just took one rock, just a rock? Even if you went into, whatever, even if you drew it and you put that rock on there and you say, okay, what will be around this rock? You say, you know what, let me put a few little sprigs of grass around it. So you draw a couple of little sprigs of grass. Now there's 2 layers now, right? Then you add another layer. So, I want a tree behind it. So you add a tree. It's 3 layers. So that's what's happening. And I think people are trying to do all of it at one time. Like, no, go piece at a time. So even when I'm making, like, again, I was doing a warehouse last night. I did the framework, the walls, the floor, the ceiling. I got all that straight. Then I started getting my door situated. Then I started doing, pylons or pillars or whatever that I wanted on the inside as framework. Then I started thinking about how to populate it. I wanted a little office space in the back. So that ended up basically just being a cube with a couple of parts of the mesh deleted out because I didn't want it to be attached to the warehouse, but it looks like it is, So it's one of those things where you just layer it. if you're trying to draw a character and you're trying to draw everything at one time, like you didn't even get his eyes right. You're trying to worry about his ear, or muscles, and it's like where's the general frame? Then layer on top of that, and layer on top of that. Um, it's like if I go and do modifications on a texture, I don't do it on top of that texture. I add a layer. So and then I do it on that layer, and I can go and erase or whatever. But the core texture doesn't get messed with. It's because I don't want it. Now then I save an iteration, because now when I save, it's going to merge those together, but it's not going to destroy my last one because I create an iteration of a save for that. So let's say it's diffuse, then diffuse one, diffuse two, or whatever. So it's the same thing with artwork. It's like, yeah, you can go learn and take courses, but they're going to tell you the same thing: is don't try to do it all in one sitting. Do it in layers. It's like if that character has chains around his waist, you're trying to draw the character with the chain. No, draw the character, then draw the chains, then draw the detail, and then. So that's one of the biggest things that I found as a challenge, is because I was like, how do I get all these things together? The issue was me not doing this one thing, and that was layering, and just doing one thing at a time instead of trying to build a set while adding grunts to the floor. And well, what if I add beams? Yeah, you can go back later, but again, it's still another layer, right? So yeah, it's just adding those layers and not overthinking the process. Even if I've seen people take images from Google and just make an entire illustration in Blender and take some of the stuff, like seeing somebody take an image and make a building with it. I've done it for a short. Matter of fact, it's not even a short. It's part of a mini series that I'm doing. Well, I'm calling it a mini series, but it's called a series I have called Tavella. It's kind of like a cyberpunk-ish type of thing. I had it before the cyberpunk came out, so can't nobody say. So if somebody tried to tell me, "Oh, you're mimicking that," no, I'm not. They just happened to fall into place. But even before Cyberpunk 2077 came out, I had already dropped my first episode. Before they did the Edge Runners on Netflix, I had already, I'm 4 episodes in. So, but one of them, I think it's the third one, no, the second one. The alleyway that they're in, everything in that alley except for the wall, I think to the guy's right, no, to his left, is 2D planes that I extruded images from, and then went in and made the windows transparent. Well, gave them a transmission so you could see through them as glass. So it's just like, and it all took me like a couple of hours because I had to add to the scene. So there's stuff behind it, and there's like this railway behind everything, like a what's those things? Like the little fast bullet train like thing in the back, and I modeled everything. Nothing. I downloaded nothing for that scene. Like everything. The only thing was downloaded was the guys that he was attacking because they came from Mixamo. But the character was from Make Human, and but yeah. So I had to go in and go on top of stuff. Like there's a bicycle in the scene. I had to go and get a bicycle because I didn't have one. Well, I already had one, but I just used that asset because there was a bicycle that was in the image. So I just laid it in front of it. You know what I'm saying?
It's okay.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I laid it in front of it. There's like this, you know how they have those, like most Asian cultures have like those like paper lanterns. There was one on the wall. I just modeled the lantern and then just took that image and just layered it on top of that. Like it's layers. Like don't overthink the process. Don't, for real guys, don't overthink it, because it's even like, okay, Ian Huber. Like people are like, oh, Ian Huber's great. I'm like, he does the same thing. Like he literally is like, oh, okay, hey, I just took this texture and made smoke with it. Like you're overthinking the process. Literally, there is no box. You don't have to think outside of it. There is no box. Just do it. The first video that got me into Blender, it was just a guy that was talking, and the background was just like this picture just constantly going in across this sunset along the water, and I was just mesmerized by the shimmering waves. And he was like, 3D, it's just about whatever you want it to be. Just do whatever. It doesn't matter if it's a squiggly line or and that's how he was talking. And I was like, you know what, I'm doing it. And that's when I made my first episode of Rise of the Derulians, and I dropped it. And there's a lot of stuff in it. When I look at it and I go, ooh, but I still enjoy it. But like, why? Because it's my story. And the story has progressed to the point where there's 4 seasons of it. And I did a marathon one day and it was 3 hours long. I was like, that's 3 hours of content, dude. Like, so and really, to be honest, it's longer than that because I actually stopped. So it's like, can you like 3 years of just doing this every day. And when I say every day, I mean like every day, like not some days. And that's another problem too. And that's a workflow answer. You want your workflow to get together, you got to do it every day. That don't mean you have to do it all day, but you have to do it every day. Even if you give it 20 minutes, sit down, work on
Right.
something. I don't care if you're just changing your layout in Blender so it's more efficient. I don't care if you're moving assets around. Work something every day has to go towards your ability to get better, faster, stronger. Because the biggest issue most people that I've run into that come to me that because instead of commenting on my video, they come into Discord and go, "Hey man, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Why didn't you just comment?
Right.
Never mind. What's up?" It's like, and I answered the question. They're like, "Man, you're cool. You answered the question." I'm like, "Dude, this was all you gotta do is just click it." It's not hard. Like I don't understand why people. There's some people I cut off because they wanted me to be the voice, and they wanted me to say do this, do this, do this while
Yeah.
they click
No,
it.
it's like
And
they
I'm like,
wanted
no,
you
we're
to
not
do
going to
it
do
kind
that.
of
You know,
do it for them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by
No.
through them. Yeah, and they're just clicking it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be doing that because now I'm sitting there for 20 minutes telling you upper right corner, upper right, and you're like, where? Oh my, never mind.
They got to
Get off the
learn.
phone.
Yeah. It's not
But
easy.
but so, and I tell people all the time, all programs are easy to learn. The issue is you're trying to do a
Yeah.
project now instead of learn the program. I don't. If you look at any tutorial, my first tutorial was showing people how to just do simple things because some people come to me because they saw my ROD series, my Rise of the Ruling series, like, man, how do I do this with Xenoverse? How do I'm like, oh my god, like I looked at the same video you looked at. How did you not learn that? You know what I'm saying? But I helped them anyway because I'm not a complete asshole,
Yeah.
but you know. But it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I don't mind helping. If someone messes me right now and they say once we get we're done with this whatever and I got messages and they go, hey man, how to do this, I'll tell them. But I always tell them, but the first thing I always lead with is that you exhaust all
Yep.
possibilities, or you just instantly ask me because you just want the now answer. Again, you did not learn how to tie your shoes by proxy, you had to tie them. You did not learn how to tie your shoes from listening to someone say it, you learned it by doing it. Do it. So that's the only times you will hear me use the phrase actions speak louder. Any other time, that's nonsense because you can do a million things for me and I can still not give a damn. So it's the actions speak loud because you did it and now you know it. It's the same way when you learn how to write your name, you
Yeah.
never forgot how to do it, so now you know how to do it. So it's the same thing on is get into that program. I don't care if it's DAZ, Unreal, Blender, whatever. Get into the program and just play with stuff. Like I know how to use Unreal, but it's just too many things to do to get one thing done. I'm like, dude, I gotta click all this extra stuff when I should be able to just drop this
Mhm.
in here and it's just work. But no, you got to go over here, go to the blueprint. I got to do this, and I'm not talking about gaming stuff. I'm talking about filming, and I'm just like, Lord, I got to put a sequence in. Why is not that on the screen already? This is just me. I feel like there should be a film version of it. Like, and I said this before, and the guy was like, "You should email them." I'm sorry, but they probably get like 2-3 million emails a day. I'm not going to be that guy. Um, but yeah, like there should be a version of it. And I don't mean when you go into the settings where you go, oh, for film, but it's still not set up for it. There's no sequencer, there's no recorder, there's nothing set up for you to start using this as film. It's just it just changed the scene, the level, but it didn't give you any tools from the jump
Yeah.
to start working as a filmmaker. So I was like, why is this not set up like this? There should be a specific download version of Unreal for filmmaking. But somebody I had a guy say he was like, I agree with you. He was like, but I kind of feel like I know why they won't. And I was like, well, I know why they won't because it's not for filmmaking. You just can do that, but it's not what it's for. It's for making games. Period. They don't care about the film industry. They glad that the film industry there because that's what's keeping them afloat. The film industry is why it's free. It is not free because of gaming because people are still making games 6 years later that they started 6 years ago. And this is my own personal take again. I'm never getting into. I was going to do game design. I was like, nope, take too long. It takes way too long to do a game when I could just do when really the game is just a movie that you play.
Yeah.
Why not just make the damn movie? So
I don't think I'd ever get into games either.
yeah,
Yeah.
but don't overthink the
Yeah.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't overthink the process, guys.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. Don't.
Something you said, it was related to the was now, but yeah, no, oh yeah, it's like in a sense I get kind of annoyed like when someone comes to me. I'm the kind of person, I think I'm a lot like you. I will struggle and fight to find the answer for something, and or I'll figure it out myself. Um,
Mm,
it's like there was this with the auto-rigpro. There was like rigging each of the hand fist control,
yeah,
and I was looking at, like, okay, there's only one action that you create, and but it's supposed to work for both of the hands. I'm like, I don't see that, so I look for some
yeah,
answers, and I saw questions about it. There was even a question about it on the video that the developer showed, but there was no answer to it. And I'm like, if I do this, and I got in there and I finally figured it out. I'm like, okay,
mm,
I got this, and I created a video on it. So I'm like tenacious. I don't give up. I'll figure out how to make it work if I really want to do it. But I know some people will
mm,
be like, there'll be 100 videos on something, and they show you like all these 100 videos show you really well how to do it. But then like, how do I do this? How do they just want someone to kind of like tell them to make it easier for them rather than like going through the hard
yeah,
work and effort of learning it themselves. And that's one thing about like 3D animation. It's not easy. It's not. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of learning. There's nothing simple about it. It's like, how do I make this work? And there could be like 10 different ways to do it. Do you want to do the animation from scratch? Do you want to do mocap? Do you want to do now AI and have that do it for you? Like just the lip syncing, like when I was asking you the other day, there's all these lip syncing tools, and they have like Omniverse now that do like take a recording that I'm going to try, but it takes a like a voice recording, and then it will actually capture the
yeah,
emotion out of that and apply it to the face. And then there's rhubarb, and it's just like you got to play around with it and learn it and see what's best for you.
yeah,
There's no like, I think some people just want the answer that makes it all clear and figures it out for them, and push of a button easy. They see Star Wars and they see Yoda bouncing around. I had a friend that I know. His name is
mm,
he comes in sometimes. His name is Juris Brisk. He's a really good friend of mine. But he was talking about like when the Clone Wars came out and Yoda's spinning around doing all these backflips. It's like, oh my god, it's the animation is so amazing because I want to be able to do that. And so it's like,
mhm,
okay, all right. So I could get Maya in, and then I can play around with that. And then he was talking to someone, I think who's an animator friend of him, someone, and he's like, how do I do this? And he goes, well, you're going to spend about a year, and you're going to learn from the ground up, and you're going to get to the point where you might,
mhm,
you could start to figure out how that works. And then, it's not just something you press a button in Maya and it happens. It's a lot of hard work and effort. These, animators have spent years of their life getting good at it. And that's why they're paid the big bucks for studios. And yeah, it's like this
yeah,
3D animation is not easy. It's a tough it's tough, but I think I don't know. There's just something about it that's extremely rewarding for me. And like when I was a software engineer, I did software and I did low level software. I would write operating system code for device drivers and interrupt handling in Windows embedded operating system. And I'm like, oh, this is so amazing. But the only one I could show and demonstrate it to who could understand the results were other software engineers. And I'm like, this kind of
yeah,
sucks. And I'm just going day to day doing this. And then,
mm,
I got into animation, and I'm like, I can create stuff. I'm doing stuff with high technical knowledge and ability, which kind of satisfies my desire for like what I would did as a software engineer. But when I generate results, anyone can appreciate it. It's art. Anyone can appreciate like the show that I did or the animation. You don't have to have this specialized knowledge to understand it. And just everyone in the world could appreciate that. And it's like I'm 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 satisfying my desire for technical ability, and then the results anyone can appreciate. I'm like, this I wish I had discovered this 20 years ago instead of at 50. But yeah, so push the Yoda button. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. They have a Yoda button in my
yeah. It's. I think a lot of people have that misconception, and that's the thing that annoys me because I'm like, you got excited about a thing and then think about the process. So for me, is I'll have an idea and I go, nope, I'm not doing it. Why? Because I already know I
Mm-hmm.
have to build the set, then I have to do this. I'm like, mm-mm. So I start thinking about what I already have. And once I figure out what I already have, that now I know what I can do with what I have.
Yeah.
And I go to that next level. But for the most part, yeah, it's one of those things where uh yeah, a lot of people don't stop and think the process through. They're just going off what they want it to be rather than what it actually is, and not understanding that there is way more to it. And that's not to say that it
Yeah.
isn't, that there aren't some simplicities, but for the most part, there are things that you have to sit back and say, okay, hold on, wait a minute, this is going to take way longer than I thought, you know. And I find that most people don't want to sit down and go through step by step to get to that point.
Yes.
And it's frustrating to some
Yeah.
extent, but yeah. Yeah, I know I seem a little
Okay. Well, if
distracted.
you
My
need to
wife just
go,
called me
that's
twice.
fine.
Yeah, I
Okay. No
don't want
problem.
to, but I need to see
We'll
what
get
she was
together
talking
another
about.
time too. So,
Um,
yeah.
I can. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's good talking to you guys. And again, don't be afraid to drop that project. Just do it. Just do it. Even if it's looking a little janky to you, even if it looks like stop motion, drop it anyway. Because again, guess what? You want to share it with people that want to see it. Sharing it with other artists is fine, but
And
really
don't
you
be
looking
afraid
for
of
people that are looking for you.
criticism. You know,
That's the best
the
thing I
risk
can.
is worth the reward. People
Exactly.
criticize you, even if they call you crap and all this other crap. But don't worry about it, man. It's just an opinion. Don't let the opinion of someone you only met
Yep.
30 seconds ago matter more than the people you've known.
Exactly.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Take
Well,
care.
nothing but love, guys. See you
Yeah,
guys
we
on the
will.
flip
We'll do
side,
it
and I
again.
hope to do this again. I will.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
will be
Yeah.
watching
I
your
don't know how
stream
much
too,
longer I'm
so
going to be
keep
on
it
here,
up.
but yeah, cool, man. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for stopping by. Quasi Animation Studio.
Okay. All right. No
See you.
problem. Much love.
So that was Quasi Animation Studio, guys. I'll put a link in the chat here. Thanks, Quasi. Love the just get something done idea. My problem is, you know, he speaks like volumes on that too. You know, the thing about it is that some music in here. Silence. But yeah, if the music's too loud, let me know. I like to play music in the background. I didn't want to do it while he was on there because I really do think the guy's awesome. I love listening. I can listen to him for hours, you know, because he's already given me some ideas for like stuff I'm working on. And I'm like, I want to put, you know what he's saying, I want to put stuff out that's just blows people's mind. It's like, how did you do this? And it's like, but you have to start somewhere. Even those people who are working for Disney or whatever, or Pixar, or I don't know, Paramount, whatever, that they started somewhere too, you know. And I think people get into it, and it's like, I guess I like the level of maturity of the 3D animation crowd too. Is that it weeds out people who really don't want to be there. You know, it's like they just want to push a button and say, "Boom, we're done." You know. And the Blender community's been awesome. You know, 3D animation community. I mean, that's how I met you, Contradiction Design, and the other thing is, don't be afraid to reach out to others, other 3D animators, because like Quasi came into the Discord, and I haven't even known him that long, and we just kind of hit it off. He came in the Discord, was posting some like links to some of his stuff, and I'm like, man, this looks awesome, you know. And I have like a work in progress and work complete in the Discord, and it's like, dude, he was awesome. I said, hey, can we talk? And we sit around, and just like I did with you, Contradiction Design. And I'm like, and I've wanted to do this, kind of like bring in a person of the week on, and maybe at some point we can have like a group chat, like 3 or 4 people in here, where we're just kind of shooting the breeze, talking about stuff, because it helps me with ideas and things like that. So yeah, thanks, Quasi. I love the just get something done idea. My problem is finishing things for sure. Yeah. And because I have such like high aspirations for what I want to do and how amazing I want it to look, you know, I don't think about how long it's going to take, and then things just drag on and on and on and on and on. And what I'm forcing myself, if you don't know, and I don't think I've talked about it since my last video and my last stream, I'm working on something called Navy Stories, and I've been posting about it. And the Navy Stories is going to be something like the MRU Chronicles, where I have episodes
and I had started writing down like things like about my time in the Navy that I remember from the past, just fun stories, funny interactions with others that I would serve with on the weekends, like drill weekends and 2 weeks of active duty. And I thought I posted them to Facebook to my friends, and they're like, "Oh man, this is really good." He goes, "You should write, you should write stories about this because you're a really good writer." And I thought, and then someone else came along and said, "But you also have, you know, I'd love to see this in 3D." And I'm like, that might be fun for a lot of people. I thought about it, and then what I did was, okay, I'm here. She wanted to know if she left her. Okay, all right. Well, I hope she doesn't get stranded or anything like that. She has money to go and do what she needs to do. So, but yeah, I'm glad to know everything's okay with her. You know. But I guess what I was saying is that, where was I at? I'm old. I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. So, Navy stories. And I have an episode of Navy stories, and I'm like, okay, this is taking a while. This is going to take a while. So then I'm like, I need to scale this back. Not for lunch. She just go, okay, good. Huh. Can you please repeat what is the best way to convert animations? Oh, diffeomorphic. If you look at my videos, there should be a link to it. Let me get that real quick. It's free, right here. Here is the latest version, diffeomorphic. And the reason I recommend diffeomorphic is because I use it consistently, and I've become pretty good at using it. I don't know much about the DAZ to Blender bridge. I always felt it lagged behind the abilities of diffeomorphic, and there's just so much you can do with diffeomorphic. I can't recommend it enough. People kept screaming at me in videos. It's like, why are you using the DAZ to Blender bridge? Use diffeomorphic, damn it. And so then I started using it. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah. It's but go there, download it. It's a script for DAZ Studio. So when you bring it into DAZ Studio, it's just a script that runs there. And what it is, it's an interpreter file that it creates that is based upon your DAZ DSF file. Forgot what the DAZ file is. It's a JSON file, but it's DAZ's version of JSON, JavaScript object notation, which is programming stuff. But it creates a script that allows Blender to interpret what's in that file. So when you go into Blender, you have an add-on there. It's an actual add-on for Blender, and there is a page on there that you go to, a startup page, and whoever created diffeomorphic is awesome. I'd love to talk to them because they're amazing. They created a step-by-step set of instructions that tell you really well in detail exactly how to set it up. It's really good, So for just character transfer, but how do you get the whole animation? Oh, okay. For that, you'd have to use something like an FBX. There is another creator, and I don't know what video it is. I can't tell you, but Halo Reclaimer. He also does a lot of DAZ to Blender stuff. I often can't find his channel. YouTube's burying him somewhere, but I can't. Hold on. Reclaimer. Damn it. Halo Reclaimer. Let me see. He posts some stuff sometimes. I don't know why. I can never find his channel when I search for it. I put Halo Reclaimer channel in there, and it just buries his channel, and I don't know why. He's got good content. Oh, here it is. Halo Reclaimer. So this gentleman, and you'll have to look through his videos. I don't know which specific video it is, but he does a video on. He uses diffeomorphic to bring in the character, and then he uses an FBX. I know what you could do.
and I think he probably does this. He probably brings the character in. He probably uses diffeomorphic. Let me post it first. Here's what I would do. I'll have to check his video to know for sure. But what I would probably do is bring the character in using diffeomorphic, okay? Now, diffeomorphic doesn't do animation. It's just what's in the file. So then what I might do is bring the character in, export using an FBX file, because FBX files, which Autodesk FBX files, can contain animation. And then I would export the animation using the FBX file and then import that into Blender. So when you do that, you would have your character that's brought in with diffeomorphic and then your character that's the FBX file. And then if you want to put it on the character you brought in using diffeomorphic because it has the rig on it, you could use a retargeter like Rococo, or let me bring up Blender because I can run Blender at the same time. I have a pretty decent PC, so let's go over to the front lines. Edit in. Woo! We're going in. Well, I said... Shit's broken. Hold on, let me try this again. Let me close this, and there's not a lot. I'll just change it manually over here. Nobody cares, man. Cheating. Put Stream Deck. Let me run this again. Okay, we're here. Apparently, shutting it down brought it up. Okay, let's try this. All right. Maybe I could try this with you. I'm using 3.3, by the way. So I'm just going to go delete everything right here. Should already have a character up. I can try this, and we can try it in real time and see, right? So let's go and bring in a character. Now, once you get... Do you know how to install stuff in Blender? Like I said, that reference on that page that I link that I dropped, there's like a start here, I think, link on that same page, and they give a really good detailed explanation of how to do the export from DAZ Studio into Blender. It's really, really good. So basically add-ons, you would come in here, you'd go to where your folder is, don't unzip the add-on, go in there, click it, say install add-on, and it will install it. Then you'll have to enable it. And then it should appear as a N for navigation, and you come down here, and it is the DAZ importer. That is your DAZ to Blender bridge. Not DAZ to Blender, diffeomorphic, right? There's a ton of stuff in here. I can't recommend diffeomorphic enough over the DAZ to Blender bridge. Like I said, there's a newer DAZ to Blender bridge that's come out. Some channels that I follow and watch have given pretty good descriptions of how it works, but I've just gotten away from the DAZ to Blender bridge because it just, in general, is not as good. So that's what I use. I totally want to see use DAZ to make horror models. DAZ is, even though I don't use the DAZ Studio anymore, their models are amazing, and they're relatively cheap. If you find them on sale and stuff, they're great models. They're absolutely fantastic models. All the characters that I have from my Navy stories, they're just different versions and generations of the base DAZ character, except that one of them is a named as the Genesis 2. I have Genesis 8, Genesis 3, Genesis 2. I haven't used any Genesis 1. I am digitally in the show as a Genesis 8. The first person, other sailor you'll see in the first episode, she is a Genesis 8. Genesis 8 male, Genesis 8 female. She's Genesis 8 female. And then I use a Genesis 3 male, and then a Genesis 2 named character. So let me see if I can bring in use Easy DAZ import. And I go into my DAZ stuff, which is right here. DAZ 3D Studio. I'm gonna go to my library. Yeah, and DAZ assets are, all of this stuff to bring in DAZ characters is absolutely free. Other than if you want to buy a named character, like really popular ones are Victoria and Michael. I have a really old Michael 3 that I got because I like the Starship uniform on them. You're going to see Michael 3. I brought him in. They're the pilot and co-pilot in the Navy stories that you'll see in future episodes. Once you get it into to Blender, they didn't care about, Michael 3, Genesis 8, Genesis 2, Genesis 1. It's just a mesh. So they're all the same. They may have slightly different vertex names and vertex groups names, but it's you handle them the same. So I would go in and let's say I want to bring in scene subsets. I save all of my characters as scene subsets, just very easy to do. Hopefully I don't bring a character in that's naked. Don't get me, don't ban me, YouTube. What's wrong with you? Okay, I would have to apply. I was going to use one of my Navy Stories characters, but I don't think it's good for this. Let's try. And MRU. We'll bring in Captain Sadea. I think she has a... I totally want to use Daz to make horror models. Yeah, that's good. Definitely don't want to bring in the nude one. That's the thing too. I get a lot of questions about like adult content. I think a lot of people that use Daz Studio are into adult content. I'm not. I want to create fun stories, and I've had people in the Discord basically say, I want to show you this thing, and then what they show me is like, oh, okay, you want to retexture that. Okay, you want to rig that thing there. Like, and I finally just had to say, look, I'm not into that, and I don't want to rig that piece of the body. So thank you, but and they're really nice people too. They just not my thing. So let me go see if Captain Sadea. We're gonna check out here. First, make sure she's clothed. Second, we're gonna make sure that there is already that file in there. Okay. And I'm losing my brain. I haven't had much sleep. My wife got in really early this morning from her flight to Korea, and I was excited to see her, so I didn't sleep. And then she brought all this like treats and stuff from Korea, like full of sugar in it. And so it's like, and I drank some coffee, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting any sleep tonight. Forget that. Okay, so it does have a DBZ file in her combat outfit. So we're gonna take and bring her and her combat outfit in. All this stuff is Daz stuff. So we're gonna say combat, easy Daz import. Actually, what I should have done is bring it in on a different screen and then bring it in here. But she has her combat clothing on, so she's not gonna be butt naked. So while that's working, we're gonna try this. Now, are you wanting to do this because you use Animate 2? Is that what it is? Anablocks? I used Anablocks and Animate 2 for my first episode, the MRU Chronicles. I have to say, though, that I really think they got the idea for Animate 2. And I don't know which one came first. I think the NLA editor. If you're familiar with in Animate 2, if you're familiar, I purchased Animate 2 in Daz Studio. It's cool, but I think they haven't updated it, so it has some glitches and bugs that I ran into. If you're familiar with Animate 2 and Anablocks in Daz Studio, then you'll love the NLA editor in Blender because it works very, very similar to that. Except I think, well, I know, the NLA in Blender is infinitely more powerful. Anyway, there she is. So this is just a straight Daz character. This is the Daz rig. Now, I could have brought her in with an MHX rig. I could have brought her in with a Rigify rig, which is Blender's built-in rigging system. I actually rigged the characters with auto-rigpro because I like auto-rigpro's movement a little bit better. So there she is. And you want to see her in cycles? Sure, we can show her in cycles. My computer's pretty stout. So we'll just leave it like that. Yeah, some denoise on there, although I don't think I'll need it. So this is what she looks like in cycles. We'll turn on some fake environmental lighting here. Strengthen that up. And yeah, so she looks good. I have to change some of the specularity on here, so I would go into the node tree and kind of change the specular lighting on the gloves. Is not quite right. But she's looking really good. And I've got all these characters in Blender now, by the way. Let's use GPU. Hopefully that won't kill my PC. I think I can stream. Probably got a pretty good Animate 2 plugin. Okay. If you're familiar with Animate 2 in Daz Studio, I highly recommend checking out, once you get into Blender, this thing called the NLA editor. It is life. I love it. And I've been talking to Quasi about it. And yeah, I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it, Quasi. I'm with you, man. Oh, goodies, Korean goodies. Yeah, tasty. She got me this mug from the Kakoro characters, which is, she got me this too. She knows I like the plushies and stuff like that. I'm a soft heart. Yeah, so there it is. This is a plushie. This is a Kakoro character. I forgot his name. He's the cat that's owned by this lion right there. I forgot his name too. I think his name is Lion, which is like Ryan. So she got me that cup too. I was so excited. All right, so we got the character in here, right? Let me enable my Rococo plugin, because you won't have. There's a retargeter in auto-rigpro, but auto-rigpro is thanks everyone. Got to take off, but this is great. Thank you. Contradiction. I will get with you. Yes, I would love to have you involved, man. That would be fantastic. Maybe this weekend or sometime we can get together and talk. I'd love to do that, man, because anybody who wants to be involved in my project, man. Quasi, I know you got a lot going on, but I'm praying. Could you join me in my projects? I'm just kidding. I know you got a lot going on, man, but yeah, thank you for being here today. And yeah, the NLA has made my work so much easier, especially, layering mocap and then adding your own like nuances to that and kind of like overriding it. Ugh. NLA editor is a godsend, man. I don't. There's a, I should be able to install it. Let me just go back over here and we'll go to where I have it. So we're going to get to where the music isn't too loud either, is it? Okay. Now, Rococo. Okay, so Rococo is a free retargeting plugin. Now, you will have to create an account with them, and it is a paid plugin, but the part where you retarget or use to retarget animation is free, okay? So, let me check here. Have to sleep here. Downloads, Blender, add-ons, and thank you, Quasi, so much for being on today, man. I loved hearing you talk, dude. It was great, and I hope that the audience got as much out of your conversation and your experience and knowledge as I did. Because I know I did. Yeah, I definitely did. Don't see Rococo. Crap. Buildify, XP kit, the randomizer. Oh, here it is. Studio Live plugin. I got it. Let's grab that location. Go install. Yes, here it is. I'm going to say go and install it. Just let it go for a second. bring it up. Oh, I have that, so it should be go. Where did Rococo go? I guess I disabled. I disabled Rococo because crap. I closed that window too. Install. Because I don't use it anymore. I use the retargeter inside of auto-rigpro. I like it a lot. But Rococo's not bad, so. Shit. Okay. Under. Okay. Add-ons. Yeah, Rococo. So if I select that, say install add-on, go like that, and then say is it already there? I don't know, it's not working. I don't know why. I'm not sure, man. I have a tutorial on this channel, always making new ones. I don't use Daz stuff, so I can't do that one, but I can help where I can. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Quasi makes tutorials on Blender. A lot of great tutorials too, so I highly recommend you check out his, not just the tutorials, but also the short films and stuff, because they're awesome. Everything he does, you know. I don't know why it's not showing up. Let's do just a base Blender. We can always bring her back in. So, let's see here. Blender. Say here. Oh yeah. I need to get. I'm gonna create a tutorial series on fully rigging and a Daz character that you bring in using auto-rigpro. And I'm doing a kind of a series on that. I haven't done it. I need to get working on that. I've just been busy with my animated stuff, you know, my shows and things like that. So let's go back over to edit. I don't know why it's not showing up. If not, I can go to an older version of Blender where I probably do have it installed. Because I've got like 3 or 4 versions of side-by-side installation of like 3 or 4. I think I got 2.93, 3.0, 3.1, and 3. So let's go install again. Let's try one more time, and then I'll go to I think a version of Blender that I should have it. If this doesn't, downloads. We'll go to Blender, add-ons, and I'm gonna go to Coco Studio Live. Maybe this one just doesn't work with. I know it's not there because I don't see the in the navigation panel. I don't. Normally, when you install it, this updates and it refreshes to do. Yeah, let's just. I don't know why it's not showing up. It may not be. I may have an older version of the Rococo add-on that doesn't work with 3.3. I don't think I ever installed it in here. So tools view. No, it's definitely not there. So let's just go to a little older version. I've got several versions here. We'll go to 3.1 and check that out. And they may already have a newer version of Rococo that does work with 3.3. I just may not have downloaded because I don't use it anymore. So this is 3.1. Yeah, I didn't install, but the folder is in the roaming folder. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, I think that I have it. Oh, here it is, Rococo. We'll just use this. Let's use this because I got the Rococo plugin here. I do have to sign in, so I will enter that. I think I just use this one, like that. And we'll go and say, okay, that worked. If I remember how to do the retargeting in here, that's the thing, is that, oh, there's a new update available. Oh, retargeting is right here. Okay, yeah, okay, I think I'm good then. All right, so let's bring in today again. So we're gonna do DAZ importer. I do have DAZ to Blender on this one. So we're gonna go easy DAZ import, and then we're gonna go to where we have our stuff, right? So we're gonna there, tier, visual novel, studio, there we go. And now, I think I'm gonna do, yeah, okay. So let's go do new combat outfit. So now we have Rococo here. I'm gonna try something. We're gonna run a little experiment. Once I upload my model to Mixamo, then add some animations, send it back into Blender. Yeah, are you asking me? Now, if you upload it to Mixamo, it'll apply the animations directly, and you can also, with Mixamo, actually have Mixamo apply a Mixamo rig to your character. Yes, once you get the character up into Mixamo, you can apply animations and stuff. Or you can just take animations from Mixamo, bring it into your scene, and retarget the animation to the character. Likely in an older version. Yes, you're right. Yeah, Quasi, yeah. You're right, man. So, likely an older version. So now, brought the character in using diffeomorphic, right? So let's go into DAZ Studio. I have the latest version. There might be a slightly newer version here. And there is, but I'm not gonna take it. So let's say, let's use Animate 2. What we'll do is, and I don't think it really matters what character I use, but I'm gonna go into scene subsets. We're gonna bring in Sadea with her combat outfit, which is what I transferred over there. Okay. No, Ricky, you cannot modify animations and mix. Well, you can do some. There's like sliders to like move the arms in and out and adjust the length of the animations, but you can't do fine-tuned tweaking of animations in Mixamo. For that, you have to bring the Mixamo animation into Blender and then like do all your tweaks there. There's some things they allow you to do, like arm spacing, the speed of the animation, and the length of the animation. You can shorten it. You can also do a set your frame rate over there. But like if you're talking about tweaks of the animation now, let's go to Animate 2 and just drop in. This doesn't break on me. We'll drop in an anablock. I don't even remember how to use this shit anymore. Sorry. Where do I go to get my anablocks? Shit, I don't remember, dude. Go to start, play stop, go to end. There's always some level of work that has to be done. Yes. You want the animation to be what you want. You know, you're never going to find the perfect mocap. You're always going to have to do some tweaking to it. Absolutely. What Quasi said is absolutely true. I don't remember this. I just added a subtrack. I don't need that. Oh, here we go. We'll do a dance. No, Quasi said he's always talking about doing the dance animation. We'll get away from that. We'll do something else, Quasi. We'll do some fighting. So, boxing. Looks like dancing to me. Some of these are for older Genesis characters, so... Let's see. Okay, let me get her in frame here. What does she look like? Let's do this. So we're going to bring in the Anablock. Put it right there. Right? And okay. So now, I hate how this shows seconds. I think there's a way to show, like, frames. Now I can bake it to the timeline. Remember how to do that. I don't remember how to bake to the timeline. Rename. You can tweak it here. I wanted to bake it to the timeline just so that I could see it, you know? You remember how to do that, Ricky? Rename, save as new, save for legacy animate. Well, like frame 79. Is the last frame. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. It's been so long since I used it. I just don't use Data Studio that much anymore. I'm gonna do a swap with selected track. This is going to be cut, copy. Yeah, there's a way to bake it. Oh, here we go. You just have to click outside of the where all this stuff is at the bottom of the window, where all your tracks are. So yeah, and like I said, you got tracks and stuff like this in the NLA editor. Oh, it's so much nicer. But bake to studio keyframes. So now we're going to transfer this over to there. I think that should give control to the timeline. So range is, let's see, 150. Yeah, so we'll go 0 to 100. There we go. Beautiful. And so now what we could do is say File, export as an FBX. And what we'll do is we'll put it in that same folder location. As 3D, Studio, Library. I'm gonna put in scene subs. That's just not where it goes, but I just, so I'll know where it's at, so. We'll say Sidea kick. I'm thinking this will work. I'm thinking this will work. So figures, yes. Export options selected. Hidden props, lights, cameras. No. Maya mental ray materials. It's got mental. Maya's mental, man. So props, lights, cameras, animations. Yes, we want animations. Okay. Base figure pose only. Maya helper scripts, locks, limits. Fine. Embedded textures. I guess that's fine enough. Let's leave it at that. We'll leave all that. So we just wanted to make sure that we get the animation into that, right? So we're going to accept. And just let it export. She's doing the robot. It's putting her in her default pose. I recommend too, if you're going to export, and this is important, Ricky, if you're going to export Genesis 8 characters into Blender for applying Mixamo animations, Genesis 8 characters are, their default pose position is A pose, okay? It doesn't work well with Mixamo animations. You can adjust it, but I recommend taking the character and putting them into a T pose, because the Mixamo animations are based on the character by default being in the T pose. So that's what I would do. And that may be why her arms are out like that right now. I think her arms are too far out because, yes. No, it may be okay. Maybe okay. There's a script called Genesis 8 Female, the best converter ever. It's DeviantArt, and it allows you to convert a Genesis 8 character from an A to a T pose. It's Agent Unawares. Search for Agent I think it's Agent Unawares. They're in the DAZ forums and stuff like that. Agent Unaware, Agent Unawares. Search for Pose Converter. Agent Unaware Pose Converter. And you want to download that. It is a script for DAZ Studio that will allow you to convert the pose from A to T. And you'll see it, I think it's somewhere in here. You'll see the pose controls right here. Genesis 3 female pose. And this is a Genesis 8 female. So you use this slider here to move from A to T. And I think this is kind of screwed up because this animation's kind of screwed up because it's based upon the character needing to be in A pose. So I shouldn't have had her in the T pose. We could reapply that. You know what? We could reapply that. Let's delete the animation here. So we're going to delete that. Say, select the keys. Now she's in the T pose. So for this particular animation, we need to, I think, be in the A pose. So what we do is use this, bring her to the A pose, and now we can go back, apply this, and say bake to Studio Key. I think this will look right because because this is a Genesis 8 Anablock pose, it should expect the character to be in a T pose or A pose. That didn't work. Well, let's bring it in again. Let's bring that in again, and we're going to pick. Well, that's wild. Why doesn't it work now? Huh. I don't know why it's not. Oh, I don't know why it's not working. Delete, 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 delete. Got the character selected, so Animate 2 is kind of finicky too. Let's try this another way. Pick. This is 8 female. Maybe that forced her to be here. 0. Yeah, it'll work in Blender. The T-pose is good for Mixamo, because Mixamo expects the character to be in a T-pose. So I always take, whenever I bring characters, because all I do is take characters from Daz Studio and export them. I don't do anything else. I don't export animations from Daz Studio. I don't do any of that. And if you're going to use Mixamo, I wouldn't apply them. You can apply Mixamo animations to a Genesis 8 in Daz Studio, but it's, the last I checked, it's kind of convoluted, and it's much, much easier and much faster to apply a Mixamo pose to a Genesis 8 character in Blender than it is to apply a Mixamo animation to a Genesis 8 character in Daz Studio. It's very convoluted in Daz Studio. You can do it, but you have to jump through some hoops to do it. I'm just going to bring the character back in. Hold on. All right. It's easy enough to do. Let's export a character and animation just... Yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay. Before I do that, this may be forcing... Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. Okay, I put her in the A pose. So it's working now. The animation is working now. I left her in the A pose. Okay. I don't know why that didn't auto adjust, but it's right there. So what we're gonna do, so this is an animate to animation, and we're going to make, I don't think I have to do this. Let's do. So bake that to the timeline. So now the timeline, the Daz timeline has control. So we're gonna do 150, and we're going to 100. So we do like that. Yeah, what the fuck? Woo! All right, now. We're gonna go File, Save As. We're gonna export. Yes, one is gonna be exporting the character. Which you already did. But this character is in the T pose, it might screw up the animation. What we'll do is this. We'll bring her back in, but I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so we are going to export this FBX. We're gonna give it the same name we did before. Save it XBX. Say it already exists. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, and just make sure that we have animation turned on. And I'm gonna leave everything default other than just clicking this and say export animations as part of that. Say accept. Okay. Now when this goes, what we'll do is so this will be the animation. It's putting it in the default A pose there. It's doing the robot. And then once that's done, we'll say, okay, we got that animation file. We'll bring the character in the default A pose because we don't, you want to have the character brought in and then apply an animation to that character later. So we can do that. So I'll basically create the animation file. That animation file will be there. And then what I'll do is I'll just export the character using diffeomorphic. And the default, we'll set it to the A pose position. So that has been exported. So we've got that. We'll actually just delete the character. So let's say we want to bring a character in. Okay, we want to export this character, but we've already got the FBX animation. Okay, I'm gonna make sure she's in the A pose. She's like that. Okay, so we just have a default character in the A pose there. Now, with the DAZ to Blender bridge, it is basically it uses underlying under what it does, it uses FBX. So you can import animation using the DAZ to Blender bridge, but I don't care for the DAZ to Blender bridge. It's got its own issues. The newer one may be better. Let's see, file, and then what we're gonna do. Okay, actually, we don't have to do anything. No, we do. We're gonna save this as a scene subset. There. And we're gonna say combat, and we're gonna say a pose, like that, okay? And we're gonna hit save. And that's gonna save into this file. Just captain, and yes, okay. Yeah. We'll save her as a scene subset, and then we're gonna use the script for diffeomorphic to generate the DBZ file that it needs to, that the add-on in Blender needs. Okay, so now we have her in the A pose right here, and then we need to come over where we have our scripts, and all of this is explained in the startup file for diffeomorphic documentation. But we're going to go to scripts, diffeomorphic, so we're going to export to Blender. I use the standard export. The only time you really need to use an HD export is if you've got, like, there's a lot of subdivision on a morph for a character, then you'd want to use that. Most of the time, the export to Blender is going to be fine. There is a cyborg character that I have that does require the use of the export HD to Blender. All the rest of the characters are just the regular export, okay? So I'm gonna go over to here where my character is and select, find it here. We're gonna go into Visual Novel, MRU Chronicles. We're gonna go Studio, My Library, and I'm gonna scenes. No. Scene subsets, and the APA. So we're gonna create our DBZ file. And that should create there. Let that work its magic. Taking quite a while. Okay, well, it's good. It worked. Okay, so now we're done with DAZ Studio. So I'm going to bring the character in a blank, empty where's the Rococo now? Oh no, it's right down there. Okay. So basically, we're in a blank Blender right there. We're going to bring in the character DAZ importer and say easy DAZ import. Okay. And let's just put a, what do you say we put a MHX rig on it? Yeah. And then what we're going to do is bring the character and you select the DUF file. You don't see the DBZ file here, but it uses it. Select the DUF file, say easy DAZ import, and it will. And also, when you install the add-on, it appears over here under import. You'll see the DUF files, which is DAZ Studio takes a long time to save stuff if there's a lot in the scene. DAZ Studio, basically the DUF file is a human readable text file that you can actually read unless you compress it. Which you can do when you save it. But if you have a big scene and you've done a lot of geometry editing, it can take like 10 minutes to save and make the file huge. So you have to save those assets, save any edits as separate assets so that it doesn't try to save all of the geometry edits in the save file. Okay, this is MHX. And I can turn on, under MHX, I can turn on additional layers like head, face controls, tweaking arm FK, IK, fingers, all that. It's a really good rig. I just prefer MHX or IK arm. So you could take this and say grab. That. It's a little bit slow because this is a really high polygon character, so I have an animation version of it that's not as such high polygon. But anyway, there's the rig. That's MHX rig, and that comes with diffeomorphic. If I didn't know about auto-rigpro beforehand, I would have used MHX or Rigify, which you can apply to this character. There's also custom shapes, which is like diffeomorphic's own version of a rig that it creates that you can select also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the MHX, the FBX file. So import FBX, and we're going to actually, let's not select the character. Let's bring in the character over here. We should be able to use the cursor and just say we want to bring that character in over here. Okay, and then we're going to do a we're going to do a import FBX, and we're going to go to that FBX file we saved, which is over here. Let's go where we were. Let's see, studio, library. Scene subsets, MRU, MRU, and we're going to bring in there, importing the FBX. Now the character with FBX should have the animation on it. If everything's okay, if it's not, figure that out. That's not what I expected. I think the animation's screwed up on here. Yeah, that's definitely messed up. Huh. That's not right. Okay. So maybe it's the version of the FBX we're saving. Because when I did the FBX, let's try a newer version of, and okay, we're gonna try the 2020. Selected. Oh, what some of this is. No hidden figures. Okay, that figure's there. Props, lights, cameras, we don't need that. Base figure pose only, no. Maya, don't need any of the Maya. Merge, diffuse, and opacity textures, no. Fur clothing to static, no. Sub-D information, I don't. Maybe, possibly. Collapse UV tiles, no, that's all textures. OBJ doesn't contain animation. I don't think OBJ can store animation. So that's an issue. As far as I know. It would have to be FBX. Yeah, to be... for my work, I would never take animation out of Daz Studio. Not that I'm not suggesting that you don't do it. Maybe there's some animation you've already created or something like that. But all the animation I do is either Mixamo animation, it's mocap that I can get from anywhere, or I do my own animation in Blender. Like I said, I'm not knocking you for doing that. I'm saying that's what I want. So I don't know why it didn't come into there. So. Anyway, we're going to do a file import. Now that we have the newer FBX in here, we'll try this. Those are pretty old. That's like a 10-year-old version of FBX that we were trying to export. Maybe there's an issue with that in the newer version of Blender. So we'll try the 2020 version. This 3.1 came out after 2020. That's relatively new. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that's not right. And that's not even working on the animation. It's pretty wild. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a good question. It's something I would have to look into. But I would recommend checking out like Halo Reclaimer. I put the link in the chat. He has one video where he shows exactly what you're asking. And I just don't know, you know? It may be the right combination of figuring out which FBX version to use when you do this, you know? But yeah. Okay. Yeah. Older XP, Quasi Animation Studios. Yeah. Older Quasi Animation Studio. Yeah. Older FBX import isn't allowed. Yeah. And I don't know. Morphs. Maybe turn off the morphs, I guess. Maybe subdeviant. Yeah, I put it in the chat earlier. So, right there. I don't know what video it is. You'll have to like search through his stuff. I'm just not sure of the video. I know he has one there, but. And this may be something you have to play around with to get to work. Like I said, I never got it to work right, and I never pursued it. So I just kind of gave up on it and just exclusively use Blender now. Is that what you're trying to do? You have some do a tutorial next time? Yeah, I'm trying to do a rigging tutorial, which I'll be putting up too. So yeah, if I figure it out, like maybe on stream, I'll do it, something like that. But file, and let's go import FBX, and there may be just something I'm doing wrong, but that's a import. Yeah, go ahead, ask your question, man. Ricky Roma. Change some settings, see if this worked. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not getting it. And the 2020 version isn't animation isn't. I mean, honestly, if you're going to use Mixamo, and like I'm saying, I'm not suggesting don't take animations out of Blender or Daz Studio. Maybe you have some good ones there that you really like, but I'm just not sure how to do it. If you're going to be using mocap and Mixamo, I would recommend not putting the Mixamo animations on. And Jverse Lewis, the WP guru, he's really cool. I learned from him how to get Mixamo animations because it only works for like Genesis 1 characters, but there's a way you can put it on a Genesis 1 and then bring it over to a Genesis 8. But there's hoops you have to go through, and you have to get the right version of the FBX from Mixamo, and it's just much, much easier to do if I would apply the Mixamo animations in Blender. It's much, much, much more straightforward. You retarget it. If you don't have like I do, auto-rigpro, I have this. It's a paid add-on. It's like, I think you can find it on sale, but I think I paid $40 for it. And then someone gifted it to me. Quick Rig, which I don't use because it didn't work very well. But then I did the remap. This remap is really nice. But if you don't have that, you get Rococo for free, and it can retarget too. But yeah, I would apply the Mixamo animations, and then you have Reallusion's. What is that? Actor Studio? What is it? It's a huge library online of motion capture animations. Some of them are free and some of them are paid. But they have a nice mocap library too. But Mixamo's got a huge library and it's all free. I would do the Mixamo stuff after I get out of Blender and not try to do this. But like I said, if you've got animations in Daz Studio, you really want to get them out, then yeah, at least not right now. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. And I probably have to get off here pretty soon because I'm like dragging. Actor Core, yes, Actor Core. I would recommend looking at Actor Core. I think some of the animations are free, but then other versions, I think, are paid. They have like $2, $5, which can add up really fast if you buy a lot of animations. I'll probably have to do that on another stream. But what I would recommend, Ricky Roma, is what Quasi and I were talking about earlier, Quasi Animation Studio there, to add and layer in the animations. I can kind of show you what I did in Navy Stories. Look up and learn how to use the NLA editor. That is amazing for layering animations, layering your own like little tweaks to animation, your own tweaks to animations to existing mocap. Okay. And I'll show you what I just recently did over the last day or so. I did... Oh, and I got Rhubarb to work really well. I like Rhubarb, Quasi. And with some tweaks, I made the... Oh, here, let me give you a little taste, man, before we get to that. Let me give you a little taste of some animation that I did in Cycles yesterday. Check this out. Let me silence plays on set. We got to listen to the full effect. So let's do this. Okay. Silence, please, quiet. And then
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, god, god!
Jesus, what?
It's Sarah. Sarah's here.
this is my first attempt at all the background sounds I got and stuff like that. But the that's all mocap, like the subtle movements of the characters. It's mocap.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, god, god!
Jesus, what?
It's Sarah.
I have to turn
Sarah's
down the
here.
voice a little bit, but
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god,
that's
god, god!
Rhubarb.
Jesus, what?
It's Sarah. Sarah's here.
The F-14 Tomcat was from an artist on CG Trader. These are all these are
It's Sarah.
He's a Genesis 8 male. She's a Genesis 8 female. The clothing is from CG Trader. It's not meant for any Daz characters. I applied all of that, rigged them in Blender. So basically, it's the head fitted to the body here, but they are Daz characters. The asset here, the F-14 Tomcat, came from an amazing artist who I worked with on CG Trader. I asked him because it looked like he was from his screen captures. He's like, he showed screen captures of Blender, but he gave me he provided an FBX file. It was like, I bought the model for $5. And then I'm like, hey, did you do this in Blender? Is this rigged? Oh yeah, man, here's the rigged. And he had all the landing gear and everything rigged. And I'm like, whoa. And I said, for my future stories, there's like if you look up there, like near the cockpit where this tug is, there's a fold out ladder there and there's some steps. You see those kind of red lines. I remember I worked on F-14. And I said, hey, could I pay you and hire you to put the ladder and the steps in there? This is what I'm doing with this. I'm creating Navy stories. It tells stories about my time in Navy and stuff. So he went and watched my MRU Chronicles, and he's like, oh man, I love your stuff. He goes, I'm going to do the ladder for free. I'm not going to charge you for that. Like, dude, I do not expect you to work on this. He goes, no, I'll put it up in the store. I'll sell it, and it'll be available to everyone. Man, and he did an amazing ladder, and he rigged it. And I'm like, God, I didn't get it in time for this short, but it will be in future episodes. They're not going to be walking up to the Tomcat in this. This is what you're going to see right here. And then there's going to be another shot too, and you're going to see an F-14 going by with an F-14 sound, and also a tug driving with a Genesis character driving it. But yeah, so that's a lot of work. But it was worth it because it's very unique, and there are not a lot of people doing it. Oh my good, find love in your own town today. My wife is back, so I'm just going to go ahead. Alrighty then. How can I apply it to a character in Blender? Oh, where did you get the mocap library? I might want that. Let's talk. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring in my Navy stories. Let's show you here. So we're gonna come into scenes, yeah, scenes there. Scene. Short here. Yeah, you have to retarget it. You're gonna have to retarget it. Which to use Rococo. I would recommend searching for Rococo in Blender, and it will show you how to retarget. There's lots of good videos on it. If you look here, this is what I have. Yeah, it's gonna. There's gonna be some learning there that's gonna take type in YouTube retargeting, Blender retargeting Rococo, and it will come up with a ton of videos. But there is a right here. This is kind of how I layered things. So down here, right here, is a walk cycle. This is a Mixamo walk cycle. I can show you what it looks like in the action. Go in here and say walk cycle, full stack. Oh, I gotta select the character, and we're gonna go all. So this is basically the walk cycle animation that came from Mixamo right here. After I brought it in, I retargeted it to the character, and this is looking nice. It's like how I have this set up. So yeah, YouTube has got, there's tons, Ricky, there's tons of YouTube tutorials. Anything you can think of, and that's how I learned. Dude, YouTube tutorials. Some of the really good ones are, there's a lot of good Blender artists out there. Wazi, Animation Studio. There is Ryan King Art is a really good one. Grant Abbott, Blender Guru. He's like the man as far as that goes. He's the man, you know. But all those have a ton of videos out there. Anytime I have a question, boom, YouTube, bring it up, type in the question, somebody's created a video. You know, I'm not trying to push you off or anything like that. It's just like, there's a lot of work that you're going to, there's going to be a lot of learning that you're going to have to do to get up to speed on this. And like I said, if you've got any particular question or you get stuck on something, feel free to, in the Discord, send me an email or message or something like that and just say, hey, I'm stuck on this thing, you know? I need a server invite over here. How do I get the... Pretty good. I can't even think right now. Oh, invite people. Never. Okay. Generate link and copy. I'm going to send that in stream right there. Okay, yeah, no, the stream will go up, Ricky, after I'm done. The stream will go up onto my channel as a VOD. So you'll be able to watch it as a video later on. So it'll be there on the channels. There's the Discord if you want to join. But yes, this is a walk cycle I got from Mixamo. Okay, and then basically he transitions from walking, and the audio, if you can hear that in the background, you may not pick up the audio from that, but I'm scrubbing through the timeline. Let me turn that off. I got audio scrubbing turned off. But then he transitions from walking into idle right there. Okay. And that idle animation, stop. And then you go to idle animation and say, let's edit that action. And this is the idle animation. And then I basically created multiple, like, basically loops. The idle animation wasn't perfect, so at the end of it wasn't where I could actually loop it very easily. Like when I go into do the Shift E and I say make cyclic, it didn't work real well because the end of the idle cycle wasn't exactly the same as the beginning, so there was a jerk to it. So what I did is I created a second track here and smoothed it out by blending the one idle into the other. And then, so this is all stuff that I basically learned from scratch. So I went through YouTube tutorials. Quasi was talking about it, helped me out. Quasi helped me out with the basically the rhubarb, which is the lip sync I used. I had to learn that, so it's all a matter of learning. And it's not easy. I won't lie. It takes time and effort. So, and like we were talking on the stream. Quasi was saying that, like I know you get like, and I do this myself, and you get excited about, I just want to get in the action, I want to do this, and you get so excited. It's like, I just want to get to that point where I start creating this amazing action. But there's a lot of steps that built up to that point, and a lot of learning you have to do, and a lot of time and effort you have to spend on getting up to speed to the point where you can create that action sequence. You know what I mean? It's not just going to be like a push of a few buttons and like, oh, there we are. It's good. So it does take time. There's learning. Be patient with it. And, don't get discouraged, because it will take, Blender takes time. 3D animation art is very complex. So, don't get overwhelmed by it. Take it day at a time, constantly work on getting better at it. And, as long as you're putting time in, and this is true with life, as long as you're putting time and effort into something and really pushing to learn, it'll come. Just don't get discouraged when it's like you don't get from like this step where you're just starting out and then all of a sudden the next day you're doing amazing action sequences. It's not going to work that way. So I have one video going over all this. I just haven't posted it yet. And yeah, and when Quasi, I'm looking forward to checking out that video. And Ricky Roma, I highly recommend you subscribe to Quasi so that you can check that video out when he drops it. So I'm probably going to have to get off here. And thank you, Quasi, for coming on today. That was amazing, talking to you, hanging out and stuff like that. I learned a lot, and I hope the audience, seems like the audience had a good interaction. So, questions and things like that. And I'm looking forward to doing it again, to bringing more guests on, because I learned that way, and I think I think that people watching like it too. I know I do. So, Quasi, hope you and your lovely wife have an amazing weekend. Ricky Roma, thank you for coming by and hanging out with me today. I hope some of this helped. The stream will be up as a VOD on the channel that you can watch after it's done here. And you can go through and look at it at your own pace. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to work on some more tutorial videos. I'm going to work on, I've been talking about that big, auto-rigpro video I'm going to do, which is taking a DAZ character into Blender and basically doing this with them. This is a DAZ character, fully rigged with, let me get to it. Fully rigged with auto-rigpro, eyes, teeth, face, hair, all of that. I can basically move the jaw down, and it's like mouth opens. Pretty smooth too, because I've got them animation friendly. Teeth, the tongue is rigged, all of that stuff. So that takes work too. I'm gonna have to do a tutorial on that. Of course, definitely. Woo! Absolutely awesome, man. I hope you guys all have a great weekend, and look forward to catching you again soon. Probably, I'm going to try to do these streams once a week. I've typically been doing them on Thursday. I know that I kept telling Quasio we're going to do it the next day, because things kept coming up. Thanksgiving, my wife coming home, all that kind of stuff. But we got together and did it, and it's awesome. So I'm looking forward to the next one, man. And you guys stay safe, okay? Happy Friday, and hope you have an amazing weekend. And like I said, Ricky, available for questions. I'll answer them when and where, how I can in the Discord. And there's an animation channel in the Discord where we get together and talk. I want to get more people in there to get it active so we can all help each other out with our journey to tell our stories, right? Hope to see some tutorials from you. Absolutely, Ricky. Absolutely. Hope you have a great weekend, Ricky. And we'll see you again soon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you again soon. Woo! See you later, guys.